trying to fight it, getting these voices inside to stay quiet, going to the place where all this began, to start again. Oh, you won't see the light until the dawn breaks. No, till it's all said and done, you won't know what it takes.
Yo, we got Albert Einstein up on the screen. What is this? Yo, what do we got going on right here? What is this? What are we looking at, chat? Oh my god.
And what did the court say? Again, just a few years ago. He did have a right of publicity, and it did last, but it had been over 55 years, and even though there was no statute that said how long that right lasted, the court simply concluded 55 years is long enough. Here we have an example on the left of a photograph of Allison Chang at her church picnic. Her photograph was taken by her friend, and then it was put on a file sharing website. And someone at Virgin decided, since it was on a file sharing website, it was available for use. And they used it indeed for an ad to pitch a service.
Yo,
so
what is going
went from
on?
being a church picnic with friends to suddenly using the face of Allison Chang to sell a product. And Virgin was sued by the parents of Allison. A couple more slides on right of publicity. Here we have Rosa Parks when she was arrested for not giving up her seat. A reminder to all of us, if we are going to be arrested, look good, wear a suit, because your photograph may be used in posterity. Some years later, and a few years after her death, there was a product created. So I want you to think about the NFTs as a product that's being created, it's being minted. This product had Rosa Parks' name, had her face, had information about her, and the estate of Rosa Parks sued, claiming it was the use of famous attributes to sell a product. And what did the court say? The court said in this case, in the US, state and federal rights of speech trumped the rights of publicity. Now, one of the reasons that rights of publicity are very tricky.
Yo, I don't know what she's talking about.
They're state governed. They are not governed by a uniform federal law.
Kind of sounds messed up though. Is that what she's trying to say? Is like it's messed up?
Necessarily no. Countrywide. We don't know whether all of the states recognize that right, or how long it lasts, or whether your kids can inherit it, or whether you can right now by contract transfer it, which rights are protected, and what kind of limitations, such as the First Amendment. So that is one reason why when your NFTs involve a famous name or face, you have all these issues we have to talk about. Also in the US in particular, we see the use of trademarks, brands, for certain social purposes. In this case, the use of the McDonald's Golden Arches, along with the slogan, "Over 1 billion animals killed." This was used to criticize McDonald's. The slogan on the right, "Stop the Olympic Prison," was used by an organization to try to stop the use of certain facilities that were used at the Olympics. And what you'll find is,
yo, they're getting all deep in on this.
To be free speech, as was the McMurder symbol. But if this McDonald's poster had been used in the UK, they might very well have been sued for trade libel. So laws really differ. So it's a reminder that lawyers have to think about the rules in the US, but we also have to think about international implications.
Oh yeah. This lady's a lawyer. That's what it is.
And this is why your terms of service really matter. You need to ground those terms of service in the most favorable law that you can. A couple of other points here. Josh may be able to tell us more about this. Sometimes when you have a photograph of a famous person, if you look more closely, you will see they are also wearing art. So the whole world of tattoos and weather. You can use the likeness of a famous person in a video game, for example. Here's a link to a New York Times article where manufacturers of video games have been sued because they have likenesses of players with tattoos on them, and the players don't own the copyright in the tattoos.
Yo, what?
Here, another example is the use of a trademark as part of a tattoo on an athlete's body. YMCA. I know I'm aging myself if I say YMCA.
YMCA.
Well, what's interesting about that particular song is a few years ago, one of the composers of the song, Mr. Willis, sued or filed a notice,
What you talking about, Willis?
to reclaim copyright in a composition he had previously sold to the labels, because US copyright allows contractors to get their rights back 35 years later. So what does this mean? It means if you're the platform, you can get a license to use certain content today, and the copyright owner of that content could send a notice that terminates the rights to the company who licensed it to you. You might have heard about this a couple weeks ago. In fact, there were about 2 or 3 days in my life.
Oh, you got them Satan shoes, bro.
Had sold these shoes that had the Nike logo, the Nike name, and then those shoes were adapted by Lil Nas, allegedly with a drop of blood in this material in the shoe.
Yo, I didn't know this part, the lawsuit part.
If a licensor licenses to you the right to use a brand
What up,
or
Taps?
certain content, can you change it? Can you allow your users to change it? Can you allow them to combine it with other content? So some of the podcasts I've listened to,
Mr.
a lot
Khan,
of the folks who are supporting the use of NFTs by users are also advocating that users have a great deal of latitude how they present that content. And finally, I just want to remind us all that sometimes we have content that is not created by humans. Here we have Cooper.
Say what? By the way, yo, this would be like ridiculous for Ecomi to be at a international licensing event if they didn't have their licenses in order. So I hope this like can kind of put people to rest a little bit on the license stuff, right? They're not gonna just put all their licenses out in the public and be like, yo, you know, it's private.
How do you get a license for this? Who do you negotiate with? And finally, a story that
for sure, Luke 001,
ago, and that is where Amazon, that had licensed the use of certain content, at one point concluded it did not have the right to license this content electronically, and it literally flipped a switch.
I hope I can stream this, by the way. I don't want this lady knows her stuff, man. I don't like, I might have to what if I have to delete this? That'd be scary. No, I'm just messing.
So here's the question I have for you. In your terms of use or your terms of service, are you going to reserve the right to reverse a transaction? Because remember, this area of law is really an amalgam of a whole bunch of areas of law. There is no such thing as NFT law. And you might someday run into a situation where you might rethink whether or not you have the right to grant those rights. I think that is the final slide.
Terrific. All right, well, thank you, Susan. I think even backing up, because I think there's a lot there to take in, a lot to take in. What I'd like to really have us think about and address, because the licensing community is long familiar with collectibles, the collectible business, with fandom. But the question really is NFTs a business category that everyone should get into? And I'd love to sort of hear your thoughts on
this.
Yeah,
you should.
Is this something that every brand out there should all of a sudden, as we're seeing the kind of revenue that is out there that some of these brands are earning from this, is this a category that makes sense for every brand out there? I don't know.
I can take that. I'll jump in. Thanks, Maura. So, you know, NFTs and the speculative nature around it has created a lot of hype and often a lot of pressures at the licensed IP level to figure out their first move. Josh, obviously, way ahead of the game. But the underlying value, at least that we see in NFTs, isn't necessarily the speculative nature, meaning if I buy it for 100, could it be worth $1 million? More so the idea of digital ownership and the concept that, you know, thanks to the blockchain, you can put an asset, a media file, whether an image or a video or anything, onto the chain, mint it, and then prove its ownership from person to person. If you believe that the idea of ownership, which has been in the physical world forever, means something also in the digital world, then yes, I would say that it is something, this is a completely new industry. This is something that I believe every licensed IP will get into. It's the reason why, we pivoted and created Recur, as a function or out of Trevco, because we believe in the idea that if someone can prove they own something, that there are endless opportunities and possibilities for them to then express that ownership, whether in an app or in a game or in whatever gets developed over the next, few years or 10 years or 20.
I could just add to that really quickly. I think everything Trevor said is right on. I think the one thing brands just need to think about is who their audience is and who they're trying to appeal to. Is it children, right? Because of that speculative nature right now, I don't think we can avoid that aspect of it. So I think you really just need to know your audience. And then I think you also just need to understand your levels of success. And again, this is such an emergent category. So what we say today could be different in 6 months. But I think you also need to understand like what your community is, because I think that's one of the beauties of NBA Top Shot is that it has a very robust community that's actively engaged. So that those sort of as I'm thinking about it, it's sort of your audience and then the community that you're speaking to and how you do that are sort of two critical points.
So, and I know, Pam, you want to say something, but I guess, from both Trevor and Josh, what you're saying is that just as, sort of old school, we would evaluate potential categories. It really goes back to, does it make sense for the brand? Ultimately, does it serve that audience, that consumer, that community? And Pam, you wanted to jump in?
Not necessarily, Maura, because I feel as an attorney, we're here to support what the business people do and reduce the risk on those kinds of actions. So, we would be supportive of what folks are trying to do. The issue is, how do we best protect them in terms of moving forward? And that's really the critical issue. There's so little known at this moment about how legal challenges are going to be handled, that what we're looking at, what Susan laid the groundwork for, is traditional notions of intellectual property that will persist even in a new medium.
I think the bot just like blocked his link. I think he's still in the chat.
NFTs as though they leave all the rules behind. They don't. So in making a decision of how to proceed and whether this makes sense for your business, you also have to consider what rights you have and how you're going to maintain those going forward. And I'm sure, Josh, you had a lot of thinking going on around that when you started looking at whether this made sense for NBA players, et cetera. And Trevor, I'm sure the same is true for you all.
Yeah, and I want to add real quick just to Josh's point on community. What the NBA Top Shots has done within the NBA community is really astonishing and amazing, right? It's been able to bring the NBA community, the fans, together onto a platform to converse, to trade, to talk about, then off platform about this.
That's true.
Piece of this item that they now own that they can talk about and socialize. And while I've loved selling t-shirts my entire life, and trust me, I still love selling t-shirts, I haven't necessarily created a community for the IP that we work with. I mean, they're out there, they're expressing their own personal individualism with that t-shirt, but they're not necessarily coming together and meeting up in Ann Arbor, as an example, with Superman tees.
Give us Ecomi.
NFTs, because it's a digital asset and because it can track from one owner to the other, IP does get the opportunity to create a community. There are choices to make drops in marketplaces, and we think that very well might get oversaturated very quickly. That's not a community. That is what we call a cash grab. So where we focus and where Josh is focused is building communities, dedicated communities where the fan can come together. And this really is the first time where, instead of selling an action figure and having to have the peers come together and form a meetup, you can create a platform as licensed IP to create that meetup and then have them interact with something to share and talk about and socialize. And that's, why we think this NFT space is going to be so impactful.
I think the other aspect of this too, and Trevor, you mentioned it, is the utility component, right? Right now, it's a dynamic or a flat NFT. And I think once that utility component, whether it's something experiential, whether it's something gaming, I think that will actually be added jet fuel right now. Those are the types of things of how we're looking at it is, the NFT, which for all intents and purposes, at this point, simplistically, is like a digital trading card. But once you add, the real meaty gaming or experiential, like some individuals have done, I think that's when we're going to start to see like the second wave of a liftoff of what this business can be.
And I do want to
Yeah,
make it clear,
yeah.
you know, we always talk about the utility. To Josh's point, the question might come up, is it coming? And trust me, it is. There are just as much venture money as that came into Dapper. There's equally as much coming into new NFT startups that are developing social apps. Fortnite just made an announcement that they're working on bringing or allowing NFTs to come in games. It's coming at rapid speed.
It's coming
right?
to
So the
Ecomi.
utility is very near.
So this is something that
Thanks, Michael.
I've been
Appreciate you.
getting a lot of questions, and certainly since we announced this program, this conference, is just, you know, can I take baby steps into this? So a lot of brand owners
Can
have
everybody
come to me
hear?
and
Just
said, you know, I don't really understand this, but I feel like if I don't get into it
Alex,
now,
only
it's gonna
dude.
just pass
There's a
me
dude
by,
saying he
and
can't
I'm gonna
hear.
lose. And I'm getting management saying to me, you know, you've got to get into this, you've got to get into this, and they don't even know where to start, and they want to take baby steps. Is that even possible, or is it, you know, you're either in or you're not? There's no way of just sort of, you know, wading into the shallow end of the pool, so to speak.
I mean, I think from my perspective, it's sort of a yes and a no. It comes down to what your expectations are, right? If you want to test something out, yes, you can launch an NFT. You can go into OpenSea or some other platform, you know, that has a wider range of NFTs, and you can launch something. Now, that's going to live in the marketplace potentially forever, or at least as long as that blockchain lives forever. So it's unlike, you know, a T-shirt that you launch into the market that can be pulled down, you know, when the license expires or what have you. You will have something that lives in the marketplace forever. Now, I think in the sense of, again, it goes back to what's your expectation. I don't think by evaluating the marketplace right now and seeing what's happening, is it going to pass you by? It is our belief. Again, I don't know what the volume will look like in this business, but it's our belief that this business is here to stay, and it is growing, and there's more entries into the marketplace, especially when you add that sort of extra layer of utility. So I think there is something prudent about, you know, doing your due diligence, not feeling rushed to jump into the marketplace, and just sort of making sure that you've got either the right asset that you're launching, or at a minimum, you're also working with the right partners to do that.
Yeah, and I want to add to that, and definitely hear from the legal side, because I'm sure they'll say dipping your toe in the water could be a very expensive dip. But from an NFT standpoint, one thing to consider, as Josh mentioned, is doing your research. You know, the NFT infrastructure that exists today, that started 2 or 3 years ago, was, you know, compared to today, was built on technology that is light years in advancement today. There are underlying smart contracts that define the rules of how an NFT behaves, and understanding how those smart contracts work, whether they're upgradable. Can you pause or blacklist that NFT, right? Not all marketplaces are treated equally. OpenSea is different than Rarible, and really none of those things exist out in the marketplace standpoint. So remember that some of your earliest NFTs that you release could become your most valuable 5 or 10 years from now. And if you don't have an understanding of those smart contracts and how they work, then you could possibly be in a situation that could damage you and or
CEO
could be limiting.
I think it's 12:30.
So Maura, something else when you were thinking about dipping your toe in the water,
about 30 minutes.
Either licensor or licensee, you know, as a lawyer, we are guided by contracts. Trevor just mentioned this smart contract, which is really a little bit different than the kind of licensing agreements that we talk about in terms of governing the relationship between licensor and licensee. So one of the first things, in addition, if you're the licensor and you're looking to decide, do I even have the rights to convey? That's an important thing. Do I need to develop or protect some other trademarks, copyrights, whatever? But another suggestion is to make sure that you look at the agreements you have in place to see if you've even defined a category so broadly that a licensee might suggest that they've already got the rights to develop NFTs. And you as the licensor may consider that that's not part of your strategy. And in fact, you don't want to go that route, and you better be refining the language around the categories that you're granting rights to. So the reverse is true of a licensee. Exploring what rights they actually have in their license is a good place to even consider whether you've got what you need to begin.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's always the unknown unknowns. That's what's all, you know, and obviously great counsel is always a good thing to have. I've always considered it to be an important investment whenever you're embarking on these kinds of things. But so are we looking at this almost as sort of an evolution of, if you look at sort of the media world, and Trevor, you and I spoke a little bit about this, where, back in the day, we had, records. So there were masters, and then there were presses. And contracts are really around music. They were really looking at that very physical iteration. And then, of course, the technology changed, and there were things like CDs and things like that, which hadn't been contemplated. And there's obviously the famous Beatles case. So is this an iteration of what has started all those years ago,
Sorry,
sort
guys.
of in this digital media world that we're seeing today? And there will be something that replaces this. Josh, you started in this world 3 years ago, and now you're already seeing, pretty significant changes. And then importantly, how do we really even think about this and not and embrace it? Because to your point, Josh, it's not going away, or Trevor's point, it's not going away. And this is an exciting, dynamic way for consumers to really enjoy their favorite brands and things like that. So this is a good thing, but how do we manage this and understand not just the upside potential, but certainly the downside or risks involved with this? So how do you sort of I don't want to say hedge your bets with lawyers on board here, but how do you figure out a way forward that mitigates risk as best in a world that there's so many unknowns?
I mean, from a business perspective, mitigating risk. I mean, obviously, there's lawyers. I go to my lawyer all the time. Like, what's the riskiest proposition for us?
Mitigate.
I think just more purely speaking from a business standpoint, I think the way we're sort of looking at it is we're not necessarily looking to over-license the space, right? I think we're really happy with our partnership with Dapper Labs. We are going to look at other executions in the space, and I think from my perspective, it's not so much of what's happening now, but what's happening next in the sense of innovation, the utilization of our rights. How is that going to be innovative? Will it differentiate itself, from what we currently have, which is really no different than how you would look at anything in the licensing space. And I think, we're looking to sort of just grow the business and sort of naturally grow it as opposed to just over license it. Does that mitigate risk? Maybe. I don't know. I would sort of defer to sort of the lawyers. Does that mitigate risk? But I think we're just trying to sort of manage it in a proper way, not over license, and think about what's innovative. What would my membership, the players themselves, really be proud of, right? Because they've actively engaged in this. This is their group licensing rights. And then thinking about the consumer. Is this going to be something that resonates to consumer?
By the way, we might have to, because I see like at the bottom, it says not to like download this. So we might have to delete this after we get done streaming. Just FYI, I'm not trying to get in trouble, man. I ain't trying to get shut down.
Can interact the rights technically that have already been negotiated in a normal contract. What rights the consumer is given based on what they're buying. The smart contract is upgradable, could be upgradable, like an iPhone, meaning if you download an app that you bought and there is an update to that app, it can be upgraded by the original developer. And so remember that this is a very nascent space, as Josh mentioned, and the utility is coming and the space is going to change dramatically. And so one way to potentially mitigate or carefully step forward is to make sure that the smart contract you're minting on top of, which doesn't really exist, has or is upgradable. Because as new tech comes out, you'll want to make sure that the NFTs that you released from your IP can be interacted with whatever technology or applications it is those fans want to interact with in the future.
Okay, so I want to bring it around now, because this is interesting and exciting. And I think, evaluating whether you go into this and sort of where the technology is going. But bringing it back to the licensing community, how do we get paid on these things? Like, how do you to ask the crass question, which I always do, how do I make my money? That's what ultimately I really, as a licensor, want to understand as well, what the upside is. And then I can also help to evaluate what, how much risk I have an appetite for. But it also starts often with, okay, so how do I even get paid on this in this brave new world?
Or are you asking?
Are it royalties? Are we getting, because, and does that live as these things can live on, Trevor, as you're saying, like for 20 years or something, is this the ultimate long tail that I get to participate in a rev share forever and ever and ever? How does that work?
Well, from a licensor perspective, at least how we're operating, I suppose it would be different for others. We're getting our royalties in U.S. currency, simplistically put. And those
cold hard cash,
royalties
baby.
are derived
Royalties
from primary sales, which are those pack drops, and then the secondary marketplace, where it lives on the NBA Top Shot Flow platform. That's how we are generating. That's how the cash flow, what that waterfall looks like for us.
I can add some color as well. So typically there is a primary sale, as Josh mentioned, and a secondary sale. And you've probably all heard about the notion of a recurring royalty. Keep in mind that most of the time, if not all of the time, you hear about a recurring royalty that only occurs on the platform. So on NBA Top Shot or on Nifty Gateway or on Rarible. But the minute that NFT leaves, that secondary royalty breaks. So the reason why we're called Recur is because we are developing the standard for the recurring royalty across chain, which we think is very important. Joe Lubin, the founder of Ethereum, is an investor of ours. It's very important that as people own these NFTs, they can take them and interact with the applications of their choice, right? So that's very important, and making sure that you, the IP, get that recurring royalty no matter where that asset ends up reselling. Could happen on platform, it could happen off platform in the eBay of NFTs, which is OpenSea, as Josh mentioned. It could be looked at like a licensing royalty. It could be looked at like a revenue split. Typically the royalty rates are a little higher than your traditional consumer product physical merch deal. But the IP has to make a choice. Are you in the licensing business, or is this something you're going to do yourselves? We have not seen brands taking this and doing it themselves. The crypto space is a decentralized, unregulated industry, and it could be very dangerous. All the horror stories you heard of 5 years ago, those things necessarily haven't gone away. And so having a partner, Dapper Labs in Josh's case, Recur as an example, or anyone else in the crypto space to help the brand navigate this, could be as much risk mitigation as it is opportunity. And I think that's very important as we look to, how do you structure this?
Well, for Maura, one of the things, that we had talked about, and I think Trevor and Josh are in a good place to discuss this issue on the royalty side, and you all were previously mentioning the distinction that we've come to understand in the licensing business is we get a royalty at one channel, one chain in the whole distribution process as a licensor. You can't keep drawing on different channels as it goes further away from the license agreement. And so you might talk about that distinction. I think you started to mention it, but how the kind of nature of, Trevor, the recurring aspect of these royalty payments is very interesting and so distinct from, first sale doctrine, which normally is what happens for our royalty payments.
Yeah, I mean, let me just ask a philosophical question. This is the first time ever that licensed IP will be able to participate in the secondary transaction forever. Like, let's just stop right there.
Ecomi.
Okay?
Yo, licensing
as
forever.
A community, as a licensing community, that licensed IP is going to let NFTs stay in the size or existence or scale it is today? No way. No way. Right? I mean, this is the first time ever in the world the licensed brand could participate in that secondary royalty. That in itself alone is a reason and a cause for licensed IP to get involved with NFTs, and therefore a reason that NFTs will probably continue to scale as the NBA Top Shots has seen, right? I mean, that alone, how many billions of fans across all the IP in the licensing community, right? I mean, we could technically move the world together. It's going to happen from that reason alone, to your point, Pamela. I mean, it's great.
Yeah. Can I just throw one thing out there? And that is, there's this test that we see in the licensing world, sometimes called the economic realities test. I call it the duck test. Does it look like a duck? Does it walk like a duck? Does it sound like a duck? And what I mean is, these contracts where licensors get royalties forever have not been tested. It isn't impossible, and I don't want to put words in Pamela's mouth, but she might agree with me after all of our years of working in this field. It's possible that a court someday will say, that that product has been sold and that the purchaser now is free of this sort of long tail of constantly having to pay or share revenues downstream. In other words, what we think of as the first sale. Once I buy that t-shirt with a brand on it, I own that t-shirt and I can sell that t-shirt and I don't owe the brand anything. So the real question is, are we going to treat, because all of you are using the phrases digital ownership, and lawyers like me say that word ownership, that's a really interesting word. Is that really owned, or is that just licensed, like my Apple, iTunes download, which makes it very clear to me, I don't own that song. I just have a license to listen. So I just want to throw out that these models that
very
we're
interesting.
building haven't been tested, and it's going to be fun. I can hardly wait to continue practicing another 35 years and see where this goes.
I'm kind of participating in, bro.
I love that spirit. Well,
it's just from really far away, and they didn't invite me.
Participate downstream from, through this ownership, if you will, I think is exciting for the industry. I think it really speaks to the value of intellectual property in a commercial world. So I truly am excited by that opportunity, Trevor, as you mentioned. I think on the legal side, it's going to keep you guys all well employed for many, many years to come. So as there's a long tail in the world of NFTs, there's certainly a long tail for legal debates around this. And I think this is really just the start of this conversation around this. I've been scrolling through, not checking my personal emails, don't worry, just looking at all the questions. We've checked off some of them, but there are really a lot that we just haven't had the chance to get to. And I'm getting notices that we're wrapping up very soon. So before I end, I do want to give out my email address to folks, and do email me and I'll send you slides. All 1,200 of you, or however many, I will definitely send it out from Susan's slides. It's mregan@licensing.org, REGAN at licensing.org, O-R-G. But I think just, there's so much excitement around this industry. And if we could leave, each of you could leave with one thought for today's participants to take away, not to put all of you on the spot, but I am. What do you think that might be? Trevor, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I would just say that not all NFTs, we believe not all NFTs should be bought, some should be earned. And that if we look through the speculative bubble, it will ebb and flow. What is the utility on the other side? And how do you, as a licensed IP, engage in your community? Those would be the questions that I would ask and leave you with.
Terrific. Pam?
Well, I'd say now is the time to learn as much as you can about NFTs. You've got the luxury for a short period of time of playing a little bit of catch up, but at some point this train is going to be way far from the station, and you'll really be playing catch up.
It'll be too late, baby.
From an agreement standpoint and protecting intellectual property.
Okay, Josh.
I would say, look at what's next, not what's right now, and then in that, think about community and utility.
Terrific, thank you. And Susan.
I would conclude by saying that remember that the future has happened many times. And so as you put together your business model and your contracts, the more that your business model is fair and fair to your audience, fair to your licensors, well written, you'll be in good shape if a judge ever has to look them over.
Great. Thank you all. And as a former licensor, I think I would recommend that always think about your brand and understand your consumer and where you want to take your brand and where your consumer wants you to take that brand. And always, always, always make sure you have good counsel on your side. That always serves you well. Thank you all for this thoughtful discussion. You're generous with your time. We really appreciate this. I'm forewarning you, this is just the start of this conversation. I know we'll be back asking you for more programs like this, because I unfortunately am not able to get to all the questions, and to all of you whose questions we didn't get to answer, please accept my apologies, but feel free to reach out and I'll do my best to not further confuse you and point you at least in the right direction is the very least that I can do. And certainly starting with these 4 smart executives would be a great place for anyone to start. So thank you all so much. I really, really appreciate your time today. And to all of those online, please stay for the rest of the program. There's lots of great conversations continuing on this exciting topic. So more to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Maura.
Thank you.
Well, I guess that concluded. Now we are getting towards the good stuff, hopefully, you know? So let's go ahead, move to the next session. Yo. I'm a goof, bro. All right, so this yo. I sent myself a super chat. I did. I was just trying to be funny.
Hello, everyone. I'm Steph Wissink with
Scare me.
Jeffries. Thank you for joining us for this next session.
All right.
On the screen with me, you're going to see Alex Silverman. Alex is a senior reporter in sports for Morning Consult. And I actually stumbled upon an article that Alex had written regarding a recent survey that Morning Consult had done regarding NFTs. And that was our first exchange. So this is actually hot off the press. This is an early April survey, and results were released on April 5th. And Alex is going to share with us some of the latest findings of the study around the market for NFTs. The way the session is set up is I'm going to hand it off to Alex. He's going to take control of the screen and share some slides. And then I'm going to come back on and we're going to have just a really quick discussion towards the end. So Alex, over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Stephanie. Thanks for having me here, and good afternoon, everybody. Like Stephanie said, my name is Alex Silverman, and I'm a senior reporter covering the business of sports for Morning Consult. And over the past few months, I've also become our unofficial reporter covering the world of NFTs, which is what I'm here to talk to you about today. For those of you who aren't familiar with Morning Consult, we are a global data intelligence company delivering insights on what people think in real time. We survey tens of thousands of people every day to get a sense of what people are thinking in real time about a wide range of issues and provide those findings to business leaders to inform their decision making. We track public opinion every day in 15 countries and can commission surveys in more than 100 countries around the globe. The research I'm here to talk to you about today is the product of a survey conducted among 2,200 US adults about the hobby of collecting in general, and specifically the new phenomenon of collecting digital assets like non-fungible tokens or NFTs. One of the most interesting questions about the NFT craze to me was whether the same people who have been collecting physical items for years, whether it be baseball cards or coins, would embrace or reject the concept of collecting intangible goods. So before we delve specifically into NFTs, let's take a quick look at our findings about collecting in general. First, 1 in 3 Americans we surveyed said they collect some sort of physical item, which shows just how big the market is for collectibles in general and the sort of opportunity that exists if even a fraction of physical collectors can be converted into the digital space. When you include people who said they aren't collectors today but used to be, the share of Americans with experience collecting increases to more than half the population. So taking a look at who is most inclined to be collectors. By generation, millennials and Gen Xers were most likely to collect some sort of physical item, followed by baby boomers. Generation Z adults, who for the survey were 18 to 24, were considerably less likely than others to identify as collectors of physical items. There's also a significant gender gap in physical collecting, with men twice as likely as women to identify as collectors. And those with higher incomes naturally have more disposable income to spend on non-essentials like collectibles, something that's become very apparent during the pandemic when we've seen the market for everything from high-end baseball cards to watches and art skyrocket. So now let's take a quick look specifically at NFTs, and then we can examine the overlap between physical and digital collectors. As of late last month, just 16% of Americans said they were familiar with NFTs. By this point, NFTs had already generated more than $1.5 billion in sales during the first quarter of this year, and were making headlines after the $69 million art auction at Christie's auction house by the artist Beeple. Even more telling is that only 4% of American adults said they were very familiar with NFTs, while 64% said they were not familiar at all. By comparison, 11% of respondents were familiar with cryptocurrency, and another 28% were somewhat familiar with it. So in the survey, 10% of respondents said they collect NFTs, with 4% saying they are avid collectors and 6% saying they are casual collectors.
Let's go,
Here,
baby.
You can see the teal bars from earlier indicating the share of each.
Yo, thanks, Tommy. Appreciate you, man. Well, thanks you for joining the Squirtle Club, bro. You got special Discord access with a special role in the Discord. Thank you so much.
The millennials are driving adoption of NFTs, while Generation Z hasn't quite embraced them. So either Generation Z simply isn't as interested in collecting as previous generations, or perhaps they don't have the level of disposable income as their older peers to spend on luxuries like collectibles. Similar to physical collectibles, NFT adoption has skewed heavily towards men. Alexis Ohanian, the billionaire founder of Reddit and investor in the NFT space, recently went on had a tweet thread saying he believes that bringing more women into the fold would be a game changer for both physical collectibles and digital collectibles, and our data seems to bear that out.
Whoa.
As I've alluded to a couple of times, we found that there is significant overlap between physical and digital collectors. Said they are already in the NFT space, and 86% of NFT collectors are physical hobbyists as well. As you can see, physical collectors are about 2.5 times more likely than the average American adult to be in the NFT space. Sports fans and gamers were only slightly more likely than average adults to collect NFTs, but it's worth noting that individuals who said they were esports fans were more than twice as likely as regular gamers or sports fans to adopt NFTs. And of course, as you would expect, users of cryptocurrency are at the forefront of the NFT movement. And here you can see the share of each group that said they would be interested in investing in NFTs at some point in the future. And that includes about half of physical collectors, which represents a significant market opportunity. We've seen traditional trading card companies like Topps and Panini blend their physical and digital card offerings, which seems like a smart strategy to increase NFT adoption among physical collectors. One other notable finding that I think exemplifies the value proposition of NFTs is the fact that 86% of NFT collectors said they value being part of a community of digital collectors. That's compared to 56% of physical collectors who cited community as an important reason they collect. While physical collectibles, can certainly bring people together at card shows and even online on message boards, digital community is such an inherent part of collecting NFTs given the peer-to-peer nature of blockchain. So I hope this research has helped illustrate who is currently engaging with NFTs and some potential opportunities for growth in the market. It's still very early days for NFTs, and my colleagues and I at Morning Consult will continue to closely track the space and more surveys like this one. And now I'll pass back to Stephanie, who will take some questions.
Thanks, Alex. That was really helpful. So I have a few prepared questions. The first is just on the gender split. Why do you think men are a more likely collector, both on the physical side and on the digital side?
Some people that I've spoken to in the industry, particularly on the sports side, have sort of pointed out that traditionally most mainstream offerings of collectibles have been focused around male athletes. And similarly in non-sports collectibles, you've seen a lot of the.
I was gonna say, don't answer, bro. It's a trap.
Some of these these collectible series are based around, tend to be male centric. I think with the sort of increase in popularity recently of women's sports in particular, I think there's a big opportunity there, and I think you'll probably see more collectibles
bro.
in that space. And I think
let's get some more female collectibles in.
The Reddit founder that I mentioned, was very bullish on.
The other thing that really struck me about the results was the disparity by age demo or by cohort. Clearly, there seems to be a very strong interest among millennials. Anything in your broader survey work or in this survey specifically that would give you a clue as to why that might be relative to other demographic groups?
Yeah, I think, with millennials, we have noticed in some of our survey work, for example, millennials are much more likely than other generations to identify as sports fans. I believe we did a survey that was focused on sort of assessing the sports consumption habits of Generation Z, and found that 69% of millennials identified as sports fans compared to 53% of Gen Z. And millennials were also more likely to identify as avid sports fans. So sports is a significant chunk of collecting. So I think that the greater sports fandom of millennials is potentially a factor there. And I also think that I've seen some research that Gen Z is sort of pushing back a little bit on the materialistic consumer culture that millennials have sort of been known for buying into. So it could potentially be a response, that sort of response as well.
And then the last question for you, just given, you've done an extensive amount of work in the sports space specifically, I think that's one of the bellwether industries that a lot of people are using when they're studying NFTs, just to try to understand the complexities of, as we heard from an earlier panel, the legalities around likeness and where the rights transfer and the downstream access to royalties. And so I'm wondering if you can just help us think through a little bit about some of the survey findings as it relates to sports. Do you think that's going to be an area where NFTs, maybe that's a starting point for a lot of collectors, because it is a little bit more tangible, easier to understand, versus getting into some of the other areas which are far more dynamic and maybe a little bit more complex?
Yeah, I think, sports has obviously been one of the, sort of hotbeds for this NFT activity. Everyone from Rob Gronkowski to Bryson DeChambeau. Today, I think the Warriors became the first professional sports team to issue their own NFT. And then, of course, can't forget about NBA Top Shot. But, I was a little bit surprised, I guess, by the lack of enthusiasm in our results. I thought that sports fans would be much more likely to kind of take an interest in NFTs than the average American. That wasn't really the case. Like the slide showed, it was only 13% of sports fans said that they were collecting versus 10% of adults. And we asked sports fans as well if their favorite athlete or their favorite team issued an NFT, would they be interested in acquiring it? And 29% of sports fans said yes, which is significant, but not necessarily overwhelming. So, I think it'll be interesting to see. I think there's so many potential applications in sports with ticketing and potential other ways that teams can get creative in using NFTs. I think sort of collectibles is really just sort of scratches the surface with that.
Yeah, you bring up a really interesting construct, because for those of us that have been to stadiums where there's a giveaway, the more rare those are, the more desirable those are, there is actually a really strong interest in attending the event because of the opportunity to get your hands on that collectible, because it could be worth something, or maybe it's not worth something to yourself. So I think it is really interesting to think about the digitization of those collectible moments and what that could mean for the ticketing process, the live experience process, and even the follow through after the event has ended. It actually extends the life of that event in a new way, which is really unique as well.
Yeah.
Final question. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to throw out the final question. We've got about 1 minute left. Single biggest surprise for you in this whole study?
I mean, I really didn't associate. I didn't associate esports necessarily with NFTs so much more. I mean, I thought gamers in general would be more likely to be interested in NFTs because they're just sort of at the forefront of technology, and they tend to be interested in some of these different franchises with that sort of IP that would make for interesting NFTs. But just the fact that people who are really interested in following competitive gaming were more interested than people who just play video games. That was something that struck me as interesting. And you're starting to see some esports organizations, teams, and leagues get into the NFT space, and I think they'll be particularly creative in how they use them.
Completely concur. That's great. Let's leave it there. Morning Consult has been very generous to offer this presentation up for anybody. Morningconsult.com. They will send you a copy of this deck, or you can feel free to reach out to any of your Jeffries or Licensing International representatives, and we'll be sure to get you a copy as well. Alex, thank you so much. Very insightful. Lots of things for us to think about. So we're going to have you back. I know you're just getting started with studying this cryptocurrency and NFT space, so we'll have you back for another chat.
Great. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, everybody. On to the next session. Take care.
Next session, David Yu. Let's go, let's go. Yo, thank you, Bianca, for subscribing. Yeah, good job. Much thank you. Much thank you for subscribing. Appreciate you. All right, come on, let's go. Let's get in here. Let's do this. People with the goats don't need hype men. That's right, baby. That's right. Yeah, let's go. Right, VeVe Volt. Oh, you got a hype man. It's you, baby. Just kidding. See here. Waiting. VeVe for the win, baby.
Question link is
Let's
in the top
go.
right-hand corner of your screen. We'll try to save some time towards the end for questions, and I'll be watching for questions that are coming in, and if they weave into our conversation, we will definitely do so. I also want to point out that this is really a global conversation. We have folks, we have somebody here in the States along with me. We have somebody in Singapore. We have somebody down in New Zealand. So we are wrapping the world with NFTs this afternoon. Let's get to this conversation about the NFT marketplace started by helping to define exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about a marketplace. What are they? How do they operate? Are they like a retailer? Are they like eBay? Are they like an auction house? And we've heard some people in some auction houses doing this. For this part of the conversation, let's focus on the initial sale when we talk about marketplaces. We'll handle the secondary. Zach, do you want to get us started a little bit and talk to us a little bit about what we mean by these marketplaces?
Sure. So there are all sorts of different marketplaces today where NFTs live and transact. We touch on some of these secondary marketplaces, which are open, but they also act as primary marketplaces sometimes too. So you have OpenSea, which is almost like the eBay of NFTs, where any NFT can come in and sell, and you could have, XYZ brand versus next to a digital piece of toilet paper, if you will. Everything's there. It's a mishmash. Anything could exist there. Then you have other types of marketplaces like a Rarible, or a marketplace like Nifty Gateway, which is a closed environment. Someone on a Nifty Gateway, for example, someone can do a drop via Nifty Gateway. That asset will live on Nifty Gateway. Then eventually it can leave, but you can't send an asset into there. So there are different places where primary sales are happening. At Recur, for example, when we were building our solutions for the largest global brands, we actually have our own marketplace on the site for the brand itself, so that brand can have an isolated experience. They don't need to be mixed with other folks. And that was where the primary sale happens. There's also a secondary market on our sites themselves for these brands, but then the assets can leave and then go and trade on one of these open marketplaces as well too. And then where this is going in the future is we'll also see some of these NFTs and assets go and transact in different metaverses or games. And the nature of NFTs are very
baby.
open, and the nature of cryptocurrency is that it's open and that things can travel around. And it's really remarkable that all these transactions, both primary and secondary, can happen in various different locations.
Zach kicked it off really interesting because he talked about the open and closed. And David, the Ecomi world is a little of the closed gated community that Zach spoke about, correct?
Yeah, so we took the approach because we've been around since 2017, and back in 2017, I mean, this NFT, many of you probably know it wasn't a known word. A lot of people can't even spell NFT. So when we approached the licensors at the beginning, they were very scared if this asset lived outside the app. So right now we're a bit of more like a wall garden. Everything's still minted on the blockchain, still have the ID. And, we've got some of the licensors, obviously, with all the news happening now, they want to explore how, these assets can be sent out. But one of the major thing about what we do that's quite different than the other platforms or marketplace is that we focus on experience. So a big part of the experience is the augmented reality and the showroom, the social sharing. And that asset really, digital asset really only can be utilized on our platform to share that. So we also think, there will be multiple different type of platform like Zach have covered. Some of them are very primary focused. We are very focused on premium brands. We have over 100 brands have signed up, and I think we have another 12 major company with their IP to be on board in the next quarter. So we very focus on premium, and similar to Nifty Gateway, we choose who we work with, and we deliver a whole curation for their program.
And
Thank
Bill,
you.
Can I in real quick to feed off what David was saying, because I think it's a really interesting point. And I recognize David was, talking some of the licensors all the way back in 2017 when NFTs were just getting started. And, when I started professionally in crypto building the trading desk and what liquidity even looked like 5 years ago, it also was a tremendously different landscape. And what I'm seeing when I'm talking to some of the largest global brands and the biggest studios in the world is they're recognizing that NFTs are going to have a utility, right? Today, of course, there's an experience that they're having on their own platform. And like at Recur and at VeVe, we're providing them their own siloed experience. But we also want to make sure that when you're selling a product to a fan, they could take that asset with them somewhere. So that's why when Recur, we're lucky enough that we started building our tech stack this year. So we didn't have some of the, difficulties that some of the other folks faced back in the day, like Dapper in 2017 nearly broke Ethereum. That's why they had to build the Flow network. Today, there are many other layer 1 solutions, and there's all other forms of layer 2s coming to make things more efficient. But we have the benefit of saying, hey, we can be chain agnostic. We, of course, can create a unique siloed experience for these brands, but we can also make sure that the asset the fan's going to buy and want to interact with, they can take with them and show a friend or bring to a game or participate in this future network that crypto is enabling. And to us, that's really exciting. And just to the brands, which is almost shocking to me initially, because I come from the crypto and technology world. My entire tech team come from that world. And for us to see a lot of these large global studios and these large brands to say, no, it's okay. We want our fans to interact. We want these assets to live on and go to different places has been really cool to see. So I just wanted to touch on that as this industry is evolving, we're seeing this openness come together. And that's what crypto and some of these things are really all about, and engaging with the fans, owning it, right? Digital ownership. So it's pretty cool how things have changed.
Gary, you kind of sit between these guys because you're in the B2B and you've been doing a lot of work over the several years in the gaming, which we've touched on. Both people touched on. Tell me a little bit of what you see from these marketplaces and the different experiences.
Yeah, I think what Zach and Dave already shared is a definitely good lead into that.
We just want to hear what David has to say.
NFTs, we're really talking about the early incarnation of that, which is like based on Ethereum ERC 721, etc. So I mean, we have the lead author, the person who developed that, right? So I mean, he's on our team, so we're heavily experienced in the NFT space since the beginning as well. And and some of the conversation was leaning around experiences and engagements, and I think that is hugely important as well. And the way we look at that is kind of taking what these guys are talking about and what does it mean for the future, right? So we heard the words like Metaverses and things like that, and like engagement with these brands, and what does that mean? So what we do is at Epic, our future vision is to think about not just what NFTs are today, which are essentially, for primarily like visual and digital art, right? Zach has kind of brought up some ideas of like utility and having like added value tied into that. And because you can, I mean, an NFT, the composition of an NFT is it can encapsulate anything that has a form of value, and then you want that value to have immutability and permanency and have traceability and authenticity, so nobody can kind of argue about some of those issues. But then what does that really translate to into the future, right? And we touched about like engagement and things like that. So Metaverses, for those that are less familiar with that word, it's kind of referring to like open digital universes. An easy way to talk about that would be, like the movie Ready Player One, if people have seen that movie, one giant oasis, it's an alternate universe and people spend all their time and energy in there. And that's a really important thing to consider and understand, because as we're moving more and more towards a digital first type of experiences, especially, in our younger generations, et cetera, the things that matter to us in our physical lives, ownership, belonging, and value, also apply to digital ownership and digital experiences, right? So that's why the power and the importance of metaverses is going to increase. So when people use that word and talk about that, they're talking about like, kind of almost a digital experience. So at Epic, we take a look at what are NFTs now, which, like I mentioned, are kind of more like the digital art expressions. And then think about like what that means in terms of consumer products. So for those of on the webinar that are from a licensing background, consumer products, or anything like that, it's important to understand that what NFTs enable you to do is basically merchandise a digital item, just like you would in a physical item. So what does that mean? Well, the ramifications are through the roof. Now you can basically replicate anything in the physical space in terms of retailing and merchandising and put that in a digital space, but it's infinitely scalable. You don't have production, you don't have distribution, transportation, warehousing, all that type of things. And all these are going to now persist and exist in these digital realms inside these metaverses. So at Epic, we take a look at what that's going to be, the 5 years from now and beyond. And what we're creating is a home for all this digital merchandise today, so that, as these people and NFTs are becoming more and more popular and more people own these items and collect these items, they're going to have a home for them. And it's like Zach said, it's got to be cross-platform, it's got to be cross-chain, it's got to be interoperable. And at Epic, we're building all of these rails into all these digital platforms. So now you can have this cross-communication between all the digital metaverses that exist.
Yeah, when we talked a little bit about the open versus closed marketplaces, I really want to dive into and understand, because we have a lot of brand owners that are part of this this conference today. And the questions I have, and from my old days of being a licensor, is what are these advantages? What is the advantage of an open versus a closed for a consumer, and more importantly, brand owner? David, you want to talk a little bit about this? You've been working with brand owners for a number of years in this space. Where do you see the advantages for an open and a closed as it relates to both the consumer and the brand owner?
Yeah, obviously, the industry is still very new, as we all talked about. I mean, it's only really blown up the last 18 weeks or 19 weeks. And so we're the very, very beginning of something quite big. And, digital ownership, eventually, when you talk about, ownership, people do want to own it. People do want to take it out, the ecosystem, because they think they purchased something and their ownership really belongs to the consumer. So we are starting to understand that a lot of these licensors are begin and open to the idea of having these assets to be sent out. And I guess moving forward, it's all about security. And for us in our platform, it's all about the user experience. What we don't really want is where right now everything's still very crypto orientated. You need to have a private key, you need to have a MetaMask wallet, you need to set up a lot of these things. And we can't have a user ring us up and say, well, I lost my whole collection. So security is an aspect of it. Education's another big one. And as we transact throughout the period, and this is just very nascent in the industry, and we're going to see a whole, different directions of it. And, one of the major things we see big issues with licensors, it's about royalty coming out, if there's any in the second, which we'll touch base later on. It's about, a lot of the environmental issues on the blockchain, which people talk about. So, and then the experience, what are we actually selling? Are we just digitalizing it because it's the word NFT, or there's some good utility to it? And brand owners are really just beginning to understand, and the monetization is going to be multiple in many different ways. With us, we very centric focus in the experience. So a lot of the brand owners really coming to us to get their brands in front of their audience in a different social manner, in different way. And they see us as a gateway to help promote to that new categories. And this is no different than buying a physical toy, buying a mug or a t-shirt. It's just that now you can buy a digital image or a digital 3D sculpture of a toy that a licensor produce. Yeah.
Does the experience for the owner change, whether it's in a closed environment or an open marketplace?
Absolutely. So I think what really happens is if you're in an environment that does not allow an asset to leave, that's like a really closed environment. And for us, we are creating these siloed experiences for specific brands so that their, XYZ studio does not have to keep their item or statue or whatever it is next to, a random other item initially on a sale, as well as their own siloed, secondary market. But if that user cannot take that asset to go engage with it in a different way, in a metaverse like Gary chatted about, or in a game or in another application as this develops, then they lose a lot of the potential future utility. So there's all sorts of different things that we can talk about, and things that we are at Recur that we think about all the time is how do we make sure that we're continuing to accrue value back to the brand while also maintaining a really great experience for the fan. Because the fan doesn't want to look back in 6 months or 2 months or whatever it is and be like, wow, I just bought this NFT, it can't do anything, and I'm just staring at it, and there was some speculative bubble. No. What we're doing at Recur, for example, is we're looking right past that and trying to think, what's the utility here? How can we make sure we're providing and accruing as much value to the brand by creating their own, experience within the brand, but then the user can then take the asset, wherever else. And then how else are we thinking about royalties, right? We're of course having the royalty on our platform, but what we're also doing is on the actual smart contract level, we have code that is creating a recurring royalty on chain forever. We're creating the standard on ERC 721s for what a recurring royalty will be. So we are the team that's building that, and that means when these assets travel.
I think he sounds mad because Ecomi already kind of has already done that. They've already done all that.
We'll go back to the original creator or IP owner or artist or whatever it is. So the first
That's
time
my guess.
ever,
I don't know.
You can capture this forever,
I don't know.
and that's really, really powerful. And the other thing that we're thinking about at Recur, given our experience and the team's experience dealing in the physical products world as well too, is what's the crossover? Because we've talked a lot about how these assets go and have utility in the digital world, but what's the crossover in the physical world? So how can you have an asset that you've minted today and you're distributed and now a user takes out, but then brand can then come back and communicate with that user and then maybe tied into a movie premiere or access to a drop of a sneaker.
That's
or something like that.
already,
So
Ecomi's already doing all that.
To do with engagement by open things up, allowing things to travel, and future-proofing your NFTs, right? You're future-proofing it by allowing things to be open and travel. We don't know how this technology will travel or change. And as Gary and David and I are all talking about, it's so nascent, it's so new. That's really true. We don't know what the winning chain will be. We don't know what the winning use case will be.
Ecomi.
We have to keep openness. And
we do. It's Ecomi. It's Ecomi. We do.
Continue to engage with it as well as the
Yo, if Recur was smart, they would partner with Ecomi.
A bunch of licensors over this time, and you've seen, because you were in it in the early days too. What are the questions that they're asking, or they want guidance from you on when they're talking about how do I get into this marketplace?
Yeah, that's a really important question and a very pertinent one, obviously, like you said, given the last 60 days and 90 days, and David and Zach both kind of touched on that, well, David did as well. The conversations have definitely shifted in the last, since the beginning of the year. And it's very funny. It's interesting, like we've been around since, 2018, and we've been doing, in-game digital drops for, since that time for the past 3 years, tens of millions of dollars of taking consumer brands and dropping them into games, into like audiences in the millions of daily active users, right? So we're talking about at a scale that's, like on a much different level. But yeah, with the conversations with the brands, it's very interesting. We are actually, in the licensing industry. We've been a digital licensing agent for that entire period of time as well. So we interact with a lot of different brands in a lot of different, all different categories and so forth. And obviously have helped facilitate them into placement into video games for distribution of merchandise. And those, and we have these relationships, and it's basically exactly what you said. This was never on their radar. We were kind of always the blockchain guys for the last.
David straight up with the silent strong man over there.
Event 3 years ago, speaking about
he's just like, yo,
digital commerce, in Las
slow
Vegas,
to speak.
Right? And back then, it was like nobody knew anything about NFTs and what the blockchain meant to that.
Silent strong type.
With all the headlines, and it's really shifted that. And like David said, the education aspect has changed as well. So all of us probably on this panel are the benefit of that. We don't have to spend so much time kind of educating what NFTs are as we used to, but it's more so what's the next question, right? What does it mean to them, and how do we help them navigate into this new space? So a lot of the brands and clients that we have do come to us because we have that trusted relationship with them over these periods of time. And the conversation always kind of follows the same path, right? We help them strategize and think about what their products and what their brand positioning is, and think about like how they want to look at this space and navigate for them in the future. What's really important to know is that it's very important for the brands to maybe not necessarily act too hastily and realize that the brands, they have a lot to lose, right? And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean that in a they have something of extreme value way, and they should be mindful of how and they want to enter and do something in this new space. And because everything is new, like these gentlemen are saying, and there's a lot of attention into capitalizing on these brand values, whether it be celebrities.
Gary Ma is the epic guy, in case you guys were wondering.
So when we work with our brand clients, one thing they realize is that Epic brings an entire network of marketplaces. You mentioned earlier, we are a B2B, so we function in a much different kind of level or layer than a lot of kind of B2C applications or marketplaces.
That's Gary Ma.
We work with everybody.
Oh crap! Stream is down. Okay, stream back up.
But we do, like I said, bring a huge network.
Nobody wants to hear what that guy wants to say. We just care about David, man.
Everything from the biggest, like the 10 cents and the green ads, all the way down which brings massive user audience base as well. So now we're talking about engagement and interactivity for these brands in a much different level that speaks to their language, right? It's kind of like bringing something to the table at par. But yeah, the conversations are exactly that. There's a lot of kind of hype in the marketplace, a lot of headlines, and it's just about kind of letting them know that it's early and there's still a lot to move, and you don't need to jump in. I know there's some quick dollars that might be able to be had, but I mean, your brand has more to gain and to lose by thinking about it, mindfully how they move forward with it.
A few questions, and if I'm looking off, I'm looking at the screen with all the questions flowing in. Some people are asking, does it matter what blockchain you are as to what marketplace you can be on? Do the marketplaces only want to work with a specific or a certain grouping, and that might limit it, or there's some that will work with anybody, et cetera? Can somebody kind of give some guidance on that?
Yeah, I can touch on that one. So right now, the most popular blockchain is Ethereum. There's the most developers building on it. There's the most marketplaces in the NFT space on top of it. So ETH is really capturing the most mind share. The reality is, and this is something we've touched on, is there's some problems with ETH, right? It's expensive. People talk about gas fees and things like that. And there are layer 2 solutions coming out to address some of these concerns. But right now, a lot of the innovation is happening on top of Ethereum. But at least at Recur, we're taking the approach of, we don't want to speculate on what the winning chain is. That's not our job. I was a trader for the past 5 years, but that's not what I'm doing now. We just want to go and help the brands and make sure we're helping them navigate the ecosystem. So we're taking a blockchain agnostic approach, because it could be there's a chain that is best for gaming or best for financial services or best for something else. And these NFTs, they also have the potential. Of course, we talk about some of the utility as assets in game and this and that, but maybe they have some sort of value and they're posted as collateral, and that's involved in some ecosystem. So the chain really matters. You want to be able to have your assets be interoperable. You want them to be able to live on and participate in all sorts of different ecosystems. And that's why also at Recur, we actually have the ability to do swaps. So even if we minted today on Ethereum, you can always come back to platform and we swap onto another chain. We also have a trustless swap that exists in the decentralized world. So you don't even have to interact back to our platform. You can just perform a swap, and we rely on cryptographic signatures for that, which is really innovative and cool. But we are taking the approach that, again, if you look back at what the top chains were 5 years ago, it is drastically different than it is today. And a lot will probably change in the future too.
Tomorrow.
So why speculate? The whole goal is try to be future proof.
Yeah. Anybody else want to add in on that?
Yeah. Our approach is pretty much similar to Zach, but we, moving forward, the industry is going to be a mass market product. We really believe that the user is going to come on the platform. They don't even need to know what blockchain you're on or what chain my digital assets living on. What they really want, the user really want to know is my collectible there? Is it safe? Is it transferable? And, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when we start building our tech out, one thing that works very well, now 4 years later, we'll be emerging and changing to a new chain, and forever technology is going to evolve. And the great thing is that there's a lot of hybrid network where we can easily migrate to something else and allow these assets to be interoperable, like Zach had mentioned. And yeah, I mean, there's going to be huge opportunities and new chains coming up all the time.
Yeah, I second and third everything both these guys just said. They hit some really highlights and good points. Yeah, I mean, the future is going to be continue to innovate and evolve, and I think everyone here is going to good job identifying that, and like Zach said, being chain agnostic, etc., and building things like David said that like appeal to the users and what's important to them. So I mean, those are the right approaches for sure.
One last question on the primary marketplace, and again, coming from the licensing community, where we have a lot of people joining us today, what will the marketplace handle themselves from a logistics, marketing, sales, pricing, all that type of stuff? And what are they going to expect from the brand owner, from way support or other means? Do we have any insight of this? Again, fast changing model, changing today versus yesterday, but what can the brand owner expect?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to unpack that one for a second there too. Yeah, I mean, at this stage, I think it's actually very important to have a very kind of white glove approach with the brands and the licensors. Just at this kind of phase and stage of it, those things are actually very important to brand owners. And yeah, I'll pause there.
I really agree a lot with what Gary is saying. Our approach to it is, you know, the model is that we want to help them, right? We're the white label solution for this. We want to help the brands we're working with. Our entire background on the tech side and crypto side is transaction, right? How to deal with AML KYC in the crypto world, how to have a smooth process. Like that was our bread and butter from a tech perspective. So actually when a user is going to go to one of our white label solutions, they won't even know that it's crypto there. It's all going to be with credit card or fiat currency. If a user wants to use crypto, they can, because obviously this is a crypto market. But for us, we want to make it as easy as possible for the brand owners that, you know, they don't have to deal with this, because today the market is a lot different than it likely will be in the future. So today it's very hard for them to manage things that are built on top of crypto. And what happens if a crypto transaction comes in, they have a wallet? Well, then how do they hedge that currency risk, right? And this is a question I ask some of the new developers that have, you know, are coming out with new companies too. It's like, now there's going to be tons of transactions. How are you thinking about liquidity and market making and hedging your deltas and hedging your exchange risk? Like, how are you hedging this risk, right? So part of our systems too, beyond just dealing with transaction, AML, KYC, fraud, all these things that, you know, our team has done at Kraken and Circle and Poloniex and Cumberland, all these big crypto exchanges and trading firms, you know, we're also thinking about, you know, liquidity and hedging a lot of this risk. And these are things that, you know, typical, you know, developers aren't necessarily thinking of and brand owners aren't thinking of. And we don't want to complicate it even more. Crypto is complicated enough. So we're trying to really have a white glove service. And over time, you know, brands will be able to deal with these things because the technology will evolve. But for now, as Gary said, it has to really be a white glove type situation.
Yeah, and sorry, I'll just respond to that. Sorry, David, give me 1 second here. And we think about that not just like this phase, and we're kind of thinking about what that means in the next phase as well. I mean, we've already we built an entire kind of a system that helps brands basically create a self-fulfilling like marketplace where they can access and get into creating digital merchandise in itself. So that idea of kind of the more do-it-yourself that we're talking about is being prepared for, and things will kind of slide down that scale over time. Exactly right, as people become more familiar and the more tools are in place, whether by us or other people that are providing it, then it kind of opens up that avenue. Sorry, David, over to you.
Yeah, so our approach is pretty much business to consumer directly for brand owners. Obviously, 3-4 years ago, most brands doesn't know how to do blockchain, how to mint this. We got studio, we got contractors designing the AI experience, the digital models, and the secondary market. So we are very end to end. So basically, we help brands, and we like to see us as one of the premium platforms where all the brands come on, and we help navigate through the marketing, the minting, the issuance. We give the advice what the primary retail price is and the mintage of how many we do. We know, you know, in the marketplace, what we're going for is pretty much a huge mass market. We don't focus on just let's get the highest price, $65 or $69 million for a piece of artwork. What we do is we allow brands to go out and market, you know, the DeLorean. We did 87,500 of these DeLoreans sold in 3 hours. And John DeLorean, he only made 9,200 of this car. So it gives you an example how large in the scale of the market it is today. And we really help the brands connect to the consumer directly and take the hassle out of everything they need to know.
Cool. This is a good transition from the primary market to the secondary market. What are some of the things, you know, the questions I see popping up are, you know, does the seller need to think about the blockchain platform? Do they have to sell on the same place they bought? Do they have to worry about blockchain that's tied into is where they're selling? Or can they sell anywhere? Can somebody kind of give us a quick dive or a quick overview of the secondary market today?
Sure, I'll dive into
Go
this.
ahead, Zach.
Secondary markets are different everywhere. So there are certain assets that can't leave the platform that they're minted on in the primary market. So those can only transact on one platform. There are other assets like assets that are minted via recurrent and our branded experiences that can leave, and those can go and participate in open marketplaces on various different blockchains, whichever the user wanted to take that asset onto, they can go and participate. And so there are certain marketplaces that don't allow for, an asset to come into it, right? So beyond just certain marketplaces not allowing for assets to leave, certain marketplaces say you can't come in.
Here you go.
So
this is what I'm going to do when Zach
that
talks.
also depends on things like that as well too. And then something else that
Headphones gone. I'm over it. I'm over it. I don't want to hear this guy talk anymore.
What does liquidity look like, right? So anyone can offer, a primary sale where they're selling hundreds of thousands of
anybody
units.
can do it.
What happens in the secondary? How do you think about liquidity, right? How do you think about having large depth of market? How do you have a great matching engine and things like that? Because these are all things that come from the trading world. So for the first time ever, instead of selling a t-shirt on eBay, right? And you're taking new types of trading into these markets. And you
find me his Twitter right now. Let's look it up. Let's get it.
So what we do is we lean a lot on our experience being market makers and thinking about liquidity markets and accessing liquidity all throughout crypto, and think about how that industry has evolved. And we apply that to our secondary markets on our own platform. And as we view other platforms, that's kind of how we think about where all these assets will perform best, is where's the deepest liquidity, right? Where is the most participation, and how can you help provide some of that liquidity too? So these are things that we're thinking about a lot.
So what controls would a brand owner have in the secondary market? Are there any that they can control? How does this ownership go, which could live forever? How does the brand owner stay connected?
A lot of this actually can be programmatically put into smart contracts, Bill. So, I mean, it's the old proverbial, the analogy with smart contracts is kind of like the vending machine, right? You put something into it, and based on what it's programmed to do, it spits something out. Like that was like kind of like the first examples of what smart contracts were like years and years ago. So I'll lean on that. But yeah, I mean, you can basically encapsulate these rules along with it. So if it needs to redistribute these royalty payment systems, royalty distributions, and so forth, it can. And those are some of the things that we address as well within we have an entire block.
We decentralize our blockchain and we offer decentralization.
That, etc. But yeah, it's a programmatic thing that we're going to see evolve into that to handle that, Bill.
Yeah, and that's the whole beauty of crypto, is that everything's on chain, everything can be programmatic, everything can be in the smart contract.
Decentralized.
And that's what we're doing with how we're handling our royalties too.
I'm just playing, guys. These guys are probably really smart. More successful than me, for sure.
The owner can participate and still see it. And yeah, exactly.
Hence the name, right, Zach?
Hence the name.
Recur. Yeah. Exactly. So the big question is that who is responsible for paying those royalties? Is it blockchain where it's tied to? Is it the marketplace? How does that money that was exchanged?
I just want to hear David. I just want to hear David
and the buyer get back to the brand owner.
Police.
Well, it's all programmatic. What's happening in the secondary market if it's done on the smart contract level. So what happens is the total notional value traded. So let's say something sells for $100, and in the smart contract, you say there's going to be a 10% royalty to the original IP owner, then $10 automatically in that currency, right? So let's say it was ETH that it transacted, would go to a wallet, and then that would be, dispersed to the brand owner. How we handle that recurs, we manage the entire blockchain experience. Everything's happening.
Yeah, they're probably just all intimidated by the DeLorean background.
To the large studios that we're working with. But again, all that's happening on chain. It's the whole magic of blockchain is that we can document it.
So yes. A quick question that came in, this is kind of, you were just talking about wallet and everything is a perfect timing one. A licensor is sitting going, I don't want cryptocurrency. I want my cash. How does it go from the cryptocurrency? Who's being responsible for that exchange to get the money back to the brand owner? In some cases, who needs to disperse it to producers and artists and everything else?
Absolutely.
With what we do is at VeVe, we pretty much think about mass market once again, Bill. Our approach on the secondary market is, number one, We have over 30,000 listing on our secondary market, and currently it's transacting between 200,000 to $250,000 a day. Right now, the platform doesn't collect royalties for the licensors. We have the function, and in this case, we will be responsible to be paying it out on behalf, basically on quarterly or monthly basis. A couple other things that we do need to think about is that, and we have seen transactions being peer-to-peer trading, for example. You know, what we really see the big market for where we are, if you go to a Comic-Con, you go to an event, you have your phone out, you want to swap something with someone, you can try it. So it doesn't always involve in the secondary market with money transaction. And we have started to see things being sold on eBay. You know, people take a screenshot of the digital collectible they bought. They take a screenshot, they transact on eBay to bypass it. You can't capture the whole spectrum of every avenue. You do your best to collect it, and some brand owners choose they don't want to participate in the secondary earning, and a lot of them do want to investigate and navigate through that. And what are and this mainly come from the artist's point of view. You know, when you sell an artwork, how could you record earnings? And many auction houses in the past have tried to set up this where a portion of the resale value profit or turnover goes to the original artist or the estate. So it really works for different type of licensors and different type of talents and property owners in this side from us.
Hey guys, we only have a couple of minutes left. So sorry, I want to circle back to kind of wrap this up because we are running out of time. You know, we have had seismic changes in the NFT world in the last 6 weeks, never mind the last 12 months of this industry. Some of you have been in it for a number of years. Some of you have been emerging as something new, and we've seen a lot of emergence of new stuff happening. If you look at your NFT crystal ball, so to speak, what do you see happening in the marketplaces of NFT over the next 6 months or the year? Gary, do you want to get us started here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to continue to grow. I mean, at first, the conversations about access, which is marketplace, right? Like, what are the touch points? Where do the consumers going to have access to these products? And there's going to be lots and lots of different marketplaces. Some of them will be niche and very focused on certain types of genre categories or different types of offerings. And some will be more like aggregator type of offerings. And just like we kind of saw like the .com era and kind of the internet and like, e-commerce and all those types of things, you're going to have just more and more and more.
Only one, yo.
And evolve, and there's no really going to be one player takes all, I would imagine, at least not for a while, until Amazon steps into the place. But I mean, yeah. So, yeah.
David?
Yeah, I mean, I read reports out there. There's about 850,000, 900,000 NFT collectors out there. And I do see in the next 60, 90 days, as, application like ours, direct to consumers, become very easy to download and use, this number will double. And we have seen our users are almost doubling every month.
We actually have users.
We have a huge fast of 3 year worth of content coming out. So as you have more and more quality,
we already got like a lot of years of content.
The mass market,
we already have licenses.
Will be, coming in. So there will be, and I do have to admit, there's a lot of speculators. A lot of things are being paid way over price or way over value. There will be a correction, but ultimately, if you have a great product, great experience, and a good roadmap, and as a brand owner, how to capture that experience with your audience, you're going to be in this space for a long time.
Ooh, yeah. Zach, we have about a minute left. Do you want to give us your final thoughts?
Yeah, I think things are constantly changing and evolving. I mean, I work out now on a Peloton, and I do panels on a Zoom, right? So things are constantly changing, and I think NFTs are a new extension of what technology means and how brands will be able to communicate with their fans and their audiences. And I think that's a really, really powerful thing. I think today, as we look at the NFT space and as we look at marketplaces, me and my co-founder, Trevor, we talk about this all the time. It looks like it's 2010 eBay. And we're here, and all of us are working to make it more like 2021 e-commerce, and to see how things can change. So I think a lot of new talent is going to come to the ecosystem now that there's all this excitement and capital coming in. A lot of it more innovation, and I think most importantly, as David touched on, there of course is a ton of speculation.
Thank you.
But
Give nods to David. Senpai.
And
Senpai.
brands are going to get involved and finally have a new way to allow their fans to engage with their content.
Great. Hey, I'd like to thank Zach, Gary, and David for joining us today for the NFT Digital Arcade panel. We now actually have a short break in our summit. We'll return at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time for our third panel, which is the NFT and digital display case, moderated by my colleague, Marty Brockstein. Thank you for your time today, and enjoy the rest of the summit, everyone.
Bro, that was kind of brutal. Like, that was kind of hard to sit through to watch. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go kind of what Tommy was saying in chat, man, is like, it just felt like he was kind of fishing for licenses. I mean, like I said, these guys, they're successful in their own right already, and so good for them on that. I'm not trying to bash them too much. I just really am a fan of Ecomi, guys, and I think everybody here is. So you might as well make the stream fun. You know what I'm saying? We might as well make it fun. Let me pull up the next link. You else mention any licensing? No, nothing yet. Just a panel, just like a think tank of NFT stuff. I wish they would have cut down maybe on the panel and just did like 2 or 3 speakers, and then but it's all good. It is what it is. David obviously is the OG of the bunch, just a silent, strong man. Just sitting back, just chilling. Refresh this bad boy. Says it's live, so 2:30. That's about 10 minutes. I don't know if they're gonna get this started early or what. Is this next panel our last chance for a huge announcement? Man, it could be, man. Dan low-key throws some like little tidbits in there, so we don't know. David threw the bomb. We have 2 to 3 years of NFT drops. And I think he's like sandbagging that. I think he's not trying to give out all the information. He's like, oh, we got a little 2 to 3 years. Where Reese was like, yo, we got like 5 years, bro. So I don't know. A perfect person. David is just golden, right? Got through the bomb. Whoa, yeah. What's good, man? Stocks here. Yo, what's up? What's up, Stocks? That was amazing. David dropped some interesting stuff. Bro, Stocks, we gotta get your username like all on the same page, you know what I'm saying? So people, I was gonna give you a shout out in the Discord, but I didn't know if you wanted me to. Zach ruined it. Yeah, man. He just, probably super excited about his own project, and like Tommy was saying, aka 9, it sounded like he was just trying to promote his own project and try to get licenses and stuff. It is what it is. You gotta do what you gotta do. But at the end of the day, David was just chilling in the back, like, posted up in the corner, kind of like this, just like, hey, we already have a platform, we already got a bunch of users, we got licenses. If you want to hear me talk, then clear the room. And just starting with a Pokemon background is enough. Or David. He's like, yo, I already sold like Pokemon stuff. Y'all are just David through the ball is the next. Okay, we can, while this is waiting, we could play some Ollie sounds. Oh, I mute. Let me see. Let me unmute that. Go follow up Ollie Sounds Man, fellow VeVe content creator. She creates music, and it's actually really good stuff too. So like this is some pretty dope music. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Art Bug. Maybe an announcement during the Alcon, David, and Dan update. Yo, we still waiting on it. We still waiting on Dan though. So maybe we'll get Dan in here, bro. New subber, great content. Hey, appreciate you, 3GP Media. I think I've seen your name around, so thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. People in the chat. Ecomi tweeted us. Yeah, Ecomi tweeted asking questions. Yeah, about the Alcon interview for sure, for sure. Like, my question is to Al. What's the next license? Just kidding. I don't think that they're going to drop any announcements on the summit. Looks more like an educational and awareness content for brands and licensors. Yeah, that's what it looks like. That's what I'm thinking, and I kind of knew it was going to be, and which is kind of why I was like debating on streaming it even, because I knew it was like, yo, are they going to even, like, I just want to see David talk, to be honest, and Dan, obviously. So, but it's all good. Let's see, we got a little session break is what we're in. At 2:30. Dan is going to be on that panel, so Dan's going to be on the panel coming up for sure. Go ahead and refresh. So yeah,
Yeah.
NFT Pirates, you're welcome, brother. You're welcome. We the Alcon, I don't think they've actually given a date on the Alcon interview, so we're gonna have to wait for that. I imagine it's gonna be this coming month, but probably soon. Chill us 3 coins that will pump in the next week. Man, I mean, shoot, I don't know. Honestly, like, Doge has pulled back pretty hard, so maybe it'll pump again, I don't know. But this is not financial advice, this is entertainment. Don't lose faith, it ain't over, right? We still got Dan coming up. Let me see what main Discord's doing. Yo, main Discord. The daughter has breached the stream room. The daughter has breached the stream room. Uh-oh. She be running around in here now. I repeat, the daughter has breached the stream room. Yo, this is Ollie Sounds, man. By the way, pretty dope.
If I should stay or be alone.
Got my wife breached the stream room as well. We got breachers. Actually, I don't know if this one is. This might be not Ollie sounds. Now that I think about it, let me back it up. Actually, I think it is. Back it up. Oh no, this one is for sure though.
Ask the question, then you said it. Always saying things you're regretting. Can't erase the steps we've taken. Can't go back to the time and place we met. I was so upset.
Yaboos, aka Stocks V2. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. We got 3 pounds, fist bumping, baby. 4 and 5 minutes. So it's, yeah, 5. We got 4 minutes. Gotta thank the wifey for the jamba. This is delicious. Hashtag soon, baby. Thanks for the super chat. Let's go ahead and refresh.
Push the pedal to the pavement. Always dreaming that we'd make it. In the rear view, our reflection is a stranger to the time and place we met. I was so upset, but you made it all better.
Brain freeze. Brain freeze. All right, refresh. It says it's live, so I think it's I don't think we're gonna have to refresh, but you never know. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm pumped for Dan as well, man. Quick commercial in the house. We got VeVe Art Show coming up May 1st. We have over 10 collectibles. It's going to be bigger than you think, guys. So for those of you guys that are complaining, we don't give... Actually, I was like the first guy, the first dude that was like, I'm going to do giveaways. And then everybody started doing giveaways all of a sudden. It was funny how that worked, by the way. There's a lot of giveaways on Twitter for sure, but VeVe Art Show, man, we got a lot of dudes coming in. I gotta update this right here. I gotta update this tweet. Pin that bad boy. So that's all you need to know right there. Is we got the official VeVe Collectible Twitter account showing us love right here. You better get ready, guys. You better get your pictures ready and your content ready right now. You know what I'm saying? All right, wrong screen. Gonna be getting ready shortly. Who do we need to bring onto the stream? I wonder, like, who should we bring on the stream? We got Dan C. Yeah, we need to bring Dan C on the stream. That I'll wear my my suit, like my profile pic, if Dan comes on. I'll buy one of Pop Bisley's shirts. Three days left in the month. Could be Matthew. Matthew. Hey David, you impersonator would be fun. The art show, baby. Any insight on the art show? Get ready for it, baby. Get ready. That's all I got to say. May 1st. That's the insight. That's when it starts. We have up to 10 prizes, guys, and growing. Okay. We've given away 5 collectibles on the show, guys. Okay. These collectibles are going to be worth far more in the future. So it's going to be very much worth it. All right. Jafet says, what did that so what did I miss? We missed, you didn't really miss much, man. David spoke when he needed to, and we had a lot of young cats. Oh snap. Here it is, baby. Here it is. Dan Crothers. Look at this. Best hair. Like nobody, this guy, his hair is going the other way, but literally,
am I in?
Literally
okay.
Not as good as Dan's. Dan, literally best hair. David and Dan have the best hairstyle and haircuts.
I'm Marty Brockstein from Licensing International.
Robert Downey Jr.
Used to be moderating the third panel of the day.
I'm shocked that Dan doesn't have
talking about brands,
like 3 wives.
Licensees and
totally kidding.
Talking a bit about the consumer, and one of the things that came up earlier today was this whole notion of community. What some of the platforms are trying to build is community among the those with affinity for a particular area. And one of the ways that community is shown is through display. Back in many years ago, when I was covering the technology business as a journalist,
Dan Hare, Ultra NFT,
made of
ultra rare.
Of Bill Gates building a mansion in Seattle, and one of the
it's a prop for your collectible.
On was he was going to have this collection of high def displays, so he could show a rotating collection of his art. That it would all be on these, screens in nice frames and all that, and that's the way he would be showing off his art. Well, we're into a new age where people buying NFTs, collecting NFTs. How do they show it off? That's one of the things about collectors. They often like to show it off, particularly if they're not collecting for investment, but they're collecting for affinity. So we're going to start this panel off. The presenters, I've asked each of the presenters to give a little bit of a presentation as to why they're here and what role they're playing in this NFT marketplace. First will be Patrick Ashworth, founder and CEO of Visio Art. Next will be Preston Wu, who's Chief Strategy Officer of Taffy. Third will be Dan Crothers, COO of Ecomi. And fourth will be Tyler Lewison, General Manager of Champion Teamwear at Hanes Brands. And I should say that, everybody misses physical conferences and stuff like that. Here we get the benefit of being a virtual conference because we're coming to you from Switzerland, from New Zealand, from Seattle, and from Manhattan, Kansas, as Tyler is fond of saying. So Patrick, why don't you take us away and start us off?
Great. Thank you very much, Marty. I'm just going to put up a couple of slides here. Just give me a second. So, Marty, great to be on the panel today and really happy to share Visio Art and how we fit in the NFT ecosystem. Our vision has been really to turn people's TV into an art gallery. So thank you to Bill Gates 20 odd years ago. Now I think it's possible with all the smart technology that's around us with smart TVs, dongles, smartphones. And one of our missions has been to make art available and affordable to everybody. So how can we display NFT artworks today? So you've got art that can easily be displayed on local devices. It's either through a dongle, through an AirPlay, through smart TV app. or through a customized digital art frame, the Samsung high-end TV or mural. These are all local within somebody's environment. What we want to do is make art available to everybody. So we've created VisuArt, that is a sophisticated digital art platform that allows you to access a large catalog of digital art, but it's possible to get the art through many different smart TVs, through different internet connected dongles. So it's really about a reach of about 90% of the population. So VisuArt, a game changer in the art world. It's very exciting with what's happening in the NFT space, because we're about to launch a free version where people will be able to display, bid, and trade NFT artworks. And then they can take out a premium version, which holds the whole catalog of art, including classic, contemporary art, as well as museum art. And we also do offer a lot of brand art. So we've done a lot of deals with licensing partners. So it's great to see the boom in the NFT world. It's a new asset class that's been created with a new type of investor and collector. And it's quite impressive, the revenue buildup and significant funding rounds that have happened. And VisuArt is a great complement to these marketplaces because we're providing the visibility to these artworks. So really, VisuArt is the difference. There's a lot of art from Artist Network, from brand partners, from image banks. They can be uploaded onto the platform, and then they can be bidded and traded on the different marketplaces. So in order to build value, what is important is, of course, visibility, and that is what VisuArt is offering. And it's clear: uniqueness, scarcity, artist recognition, but visibility of the NFT artworks, the collectors, the art collections is very important. So really looking forward to the panel and the discussion that we're going to be following.
Great, thanks. So, Preston, go ahead.
Sure, thanks for that, Patrick. I'll share a couple slides as well. So Taffy, I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Taffy. Really excited to be here as well. Thank you for that introduction, Marty. Taffy, we're an avatar company.
I like
that as people
I like how Dan and all the other guys had respect to actually mute.
That the digital representation and your digital identity is merging with the physical one, and is becoming just as important, if not in some cases more important. Our vision at Taffy is to democratize
how about the volume now?
And monetization of avatars and avatar content. The interesting thing about us too is we are horizontal across all the virtual worlds that people interact in. So in the mobile space, gaming, VR, AR, social media, and what we're so excited to talk about today is in the NFT space. What we do is we enable the creation, we have content and the monetization. We're agnostic towards the various channels and the way people are interacting virtually. We recently are doing a lot of things in NFTs. That's a lot of our brand
Smoothie
partners,
got me freezing.
our artists, and the creator community is super excited about. But just as a very high level, we have best-in-class tech to create. We have software, we have SDKs that's cross-platform, both cross-platform software-wise and cross-platform hardware-wise. We have a huge library of content. We also create content as a service for our partners, and we're partnered with
pretty legit.
Premium brands like Tyler's brand here from Champion. So I'll mention a few things about Champion and get some good feedback from Tyler, I think. And on the marketplace side, we have our own marketplace called Daz 3D, which is direct to consumer, one of the most downloaded and active 3D marketplaces out there. And we also sell on third-party asset stores and marketplaces for the big game engines. And we also do NFTs. I'll talk about just two quick examples. We provide the avatar content for Samsung devices, their augmented reality emoji system, where you take a picture of yourself, you create an avatar of yourself. We actually provide the digital apparel, and you'll see right here, there's someone wearing a Champion sweatshirt. There's another one of our partners, Warner Brothers. You can put on a Batman t-shirt. And so Taffy provides the digital content for that digital apparel, shirts, shoes, hats, different types of clothing. And since we launched that channel at the end of last year, Samsung's had over 100 million try-ons of that AR emoji content. So this is a pretty big deal, I think, for brands and some of our other partners. Another one of the digital outputs that we launched on very recently is Roblox. I think the audience all knows what Roblox is. It's one of the most immersive experiences out there. If you
Yeah,
have
it's like, I don't know if you've heard of like Batman and like, you know, like
a ton of Roblox games out there.
the
So this is just another
DeLorean
example
from
of
Back
one
to
of our
the
digital
Future.
outputs. And finally, NFTs. I put a couple examples here that were first to NFT. So Champion is one of our very good partners. We love working with Champion, very innovative. They were the first apparel company to launch NFTs, and we at Taffy enabled that. Another one that we're pretty proud of is our partnership with Shudu, which is the first completely digital supermodel. And we launched NFTs with her and her company. And this was for proceeds going to Black Girls Code. So this is something we're pretty proud of. And finally, this is the last slide, and we'll get to the panel I'm super excited about. We view NFTs as having 3 stages in the life cycle. The first one is the novelty, in that it's a hype, it's almost like a land grab type of mindset. The second is a flight to quality, where curated content, authentic storytelling, community, as Marty mentioned, of the authentic followers of a brand or an artist or creator. And finally, where we play in at Taffy is utility. Is there a function? Does it unlock a physical experience or a digital experience that otherwise would not be possible? That's where Taffy shines the brightest. So with that, happy to answer questions and join the panel. And I'll stop sharing right now.
Okay. And now we'll hear from Dan Crothers.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm unmuted now. Yep.
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you, guys. Great to be here alongside such an esteemed company. So yeah, VeVe is basically an app-based marketplace for digital collectibles, or AKA NFTs. And really our mission is to bring that physical world experience that fans already know and love, and bring that into a digital environment. So just some quick facts about the company quickly. So basically we've been around for a long time. We started in this digital collectible space way back in 2017. And we've created VeVe, which is an end-to-end digital collectible ecosystem. And one of the things that's important for us is that, this is a product that is designed by collectors for collectors. So while we have a lot of the tech in the background, it is very much user-friendly and easy to use on the front end. And as a couple of the other panelists have touched on, this really is creating a new type of digital asset class for IP owners to leverage and fans to really enjoy. As I mentioned, we use blockchain for all of our authenticity and scarcity. And really, our mission is to create a sustainable digital collectible industry. We all kind of know we're going through a bit of an NFT bubble now. But 1 or 2 years ago when we got into this, nobody really knew what an NFT was. Throughout the past couple of years, we've managed to sign up over 100 different brands, which will be rolling out over the coming years.
Have you heard of these brands? I don't know.
I'd just like to touch on a couple of our key team members. David Yu, crazy collector, basically our CEO. Myself, I'm very much into the tech side. And a lot of people from the licensing world in the audience may know of Alfred Kahn, who's in the Hall of Fame of licensing. Now, for us, really, it's not about the technology, and we want to make sure this product is very easy. So really what we've tried to do is recreate the physical experience in the digital world. And we've achieved that by dividing the app up into a few main sections. Number one, the user has the store where they can browse all our different
NFL
brands,
PA, baby.
And purchase collectibles.
I've been talking about that for a while.
Users
we got Superman,
then have their own virtual
Marvel
showrooms, whether they're
Look at this
VR
Marvel.
or augmented reality. They can set them up. They can view their collectibles in augmented reality. We have a social feed. Of course, Marty, as we touched on earlier, collecting is all about community. So the feed is kind of the heart of VeVe. Again, no collectible industry is running properly unless there's a secondary market. So again, we provide a very, very easy way for our users to buy, sell, and trade their collectibles amongst each other. And then, from the account, a user can manage all of their collection, really carry their collection in their pocket at all times. So what is a VeVe digital collectible? So number one, it is a high quality 3D model or 2D asset. They all come out in limited edition. They can be static or animated. They can be fully interactive. In fact, we have like a drivable DeLorean. They can be upgraded, customized, viewed in VR and AR, secured with blockchain. And then for those licensors who want it, they can be interoperable NFTs, or which means they can be transferred between various marketplaces. Just to finish up, so VeVe launched in January 2021. Since then, we've secured over 250,000 users. We've had some record drops. We did one, which was the DeLorean Time Machine, which we sold 87,000 editions in 3 hours.
It's no big deal, really.
And in the past couple of months that we've been open, we've sold over 350,000 editions. In addition, we're ranking number 3 and 4 in the most popular, in the top grossing apps in the entertainment space. And for me, this is one of the most important things about the app, is that we are getting massive social engagement with our augmented reality, with our virtual reality
VeVe show.
There is just so much amazing content coming out, which is both great for us, great for the collectors, and also great for the brands getting exposure across social. So thank you guys for listening to that, and I'm really looking forward to this panel. I think the display of NFTs is really the next step.
Mm-hmm. Great, Tyler.
All right. Sorry, everybody. I don't have slides for you, and I'll be brief. Hopefully, you've heard of Champion. We're 101 now, which is pretty exciting. And as we think about the future state, our next 100 years. We as a brand, we really value being authentic, being innovative, being inclusive, and we see this convergence of the physical and the digital spaces coming together, right? And so ultimately, we want to engage our consumers where they're at, and more consumers are engaging in this digital world. And so, how do we, just be part of the conversation and engage folks? And so, we think about the digital space not just from an NFT perspective, but we started putting a lot of effort into gaming not that long ago. And how do you engage in the gaming space? How do you engage in a space like Samsung's AR emoji store is a great example. And NFTs is just another one of those opportunities. This panel is about display. And one of the things that I think is interesting and a question that we ponder is how do consumers want to engage with this digital item back in the real world? So I think one of our roles could be to partner with creators to help bring that digital art asset to real life by putting it on a hoodie, for instance, and making that part of whatever gets sold as an NFT. And so we're just really excited about this opportunity and this moment in time. The analogy that I like to make is, imagine if baseball cards didn't exist and then all of a sudden they were invented this year. And every artist that's getting a card, every piece of IP that's getting a card, this is their rookie card, right? What is that going to be worth 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now? And so it's a really, really exciting time. And so just excited to be on this panel and answer your questions.
Great. Tyler, actually, let me follow up on something, on what you said, and we saw during Preston's presentation, the 4 examples of what you've done there. What were you trying to achieve by getting into NFTs? What do you think it was going to say about the brand? How did you approach this as creating, because Champion is not generally in the collectibles market. So what were you trying to achieve on behalf of the brand, and what kind of community were you hoping to create?
Yeah, that's a great question, Marty. So we are an innovative brand that thinks about testing and learning.
And so that was the approach that we took. I would argue we are in the collectible space in that we do a lot of collaborations, and a lot of those pieces, are very limited, and so then folks really covet those, especially in the secondary market. And part of that speaks to our culture curator muse, right? This person that we want to connect with as a consumer, and this person that's an inspiration to other consumers. Specifically with the NFT piece, one of the things that I think is important is sometimes speed to market matters to establish yourself as a thought leader in the space. And so one of the things we asked ourselves is, what do we want to test? And so we're fortunate, and I know there's probably a lot of people in the audience today asking, how do we engage in the space? We're fortunate to have a great partner in Taffy. I would highly recommend them because they made things really easy for us. And so they, within a couple of days, came up with a plan, and we were able to engage very quickly. And we wanted to test. I mean, I would call it a soft launch, what we did, but we wanted to test, how do we storytell around our spring 21 line in the digital space. So it wasn't just about NFTs. We actually also released a bunch of pieces in our Samsung AR emoji store.
Sweatshirts.
And that was more of the headline. It's like, hey, here's this next round of product that's coming out to all these, users globally. And that really helped amplify the spring collection that we were bringing to market, available on champion.com and at our retailer partners. And so we just asked the question, like, how do we continue to amplify that story? And testing NFTs seemed like a good way to further storytell. And so we asked ourselves, what are the different types of pieces? We did try to communicate to our customers through our social channels, and one of the lessons learned is there's a lot of education
Champions
that's
guy.
required. If you're a brand and you currently have this,
he's like the head of licensing, and
to educate them on, you can't get it on your current website. You got to go to the secondary market. You've got to get a wallet. You've got to get, Ethereum. You have to do these certain things in order to convert. That's not an easy story to tell in a social post, right? So, but we also believe that this is going to become a very commonplace and widespread adoption will occur over time, right? So the point isn't to necessarily be successful at storytelling there. Then there's this other community of people that are already collectors, people that know what an NFT is. They know I can go
all
on
right,
wherever.
We get it.
And
we get
get these things, and they have wallets. And so it was also to try to say,
we want NFT people talking
to some of those folks, and just learn along the process. And so, and thankfully we had a good guy, and still have a good guy with Taffy holding their hand along the way.
Well, I would just add one more thing, and I'll be brief. We love working with Champion, and one of the things we loved is they do have a strong.
He was paid by Recur to try to steal time.
Authentic community. And one of the lessons learned was we do have to make it, it's a different, there was overlapping, as Tyler mentioned, but there's also additional community that was new to the NFT space, and we had to provide some education on how to purchase and make it as simple as possible so that they could just swipe a credit card. The second thing I would say that was super interesting was the aspect of combining, and for the panel today, was the digital purchase, but also the physical display, which I think plays well into Patrick and Daniel's space, that the ones that did the best, that sold out the fastest, the whole collection sold out, but the ones that sold the quickest were the ones where there was one unique collectible physical reverse weave hoodies, for example, that was custom made for the individual. And so they could display that NFT and showcase it, that all the reasons why people collect and own for status, for enjoyment, for display purposes, that actually resonated very well too. So I just wanted to make that point, and I think that's a good lead into the physical display that Patrick and Daniel will talk about.
Mm-hmm. Over time, over decades, as new technologies have come in, they've gone through a phase where there were 5 different standards out there, 6 different standards out there, until the industry coalesced around a single standard that was able to create a mass market. It happened in video. You had the beta VHS wars. You've had it over, various video standards along the way. Are we headed, we're
Appreciate
hearing
it.
about all the different
Thank you, Mr.
marketplaces
Coin.
and all
Thank you,
the
Mr. Conscience.
technologies.
Thank you,
Are we
you.
headed at some point toward a standardization? What does this look like in the future? What's your best guess, and what implications does it have for the businesses that you're building now?
Yeah, I actually believe that there will continue to be a lot of different formats in this space. But one of the major trends we're starting to see now is really interoperability. And that's the ability to transfer one asset from another to another, either chain or another platform. For example, you might have an item that's in, say, Nifty Gateway or in our platform that you can then send into a game, or you can send into one of the games like Roblox.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, when selecting a partner in this kind of space, really interoperability should be one of the questions that you really are asking to ensure you're not sort of isolating yourself within one particular chain.
Mm-hmm.
And Marty, I'll jump in because for our vision is really the reach, because the issue is there's a lot of smart TV manufacturers out there. There's a lot of people who still have TVs that are not smart, so they're connected to the internet through a dongle.
TV's not very smart.
Whether it's Fire TV Stick, Apple TV. So one of our objectives with this platform is reach, and so all smart TVs were available on the app stores, or available through dongles, and this is the key. The other is we want to offer tens of thousands of high quality images, so the quality is important, because today if somebody's looking, for example, the Beeple sale, he was looking at a website when they made the purchase. If he had projected that or pushed that onto a 17-inch screen, it would have been pixelized. We want to offer a very high quality image for people to actually be able to view, experience, feel in their homes before they actually make the purchase. And then post-purchase, instead of them just sitting in a wallet and being lost, we want them to also have the possibility to say, yes, we want to be on the VisuArt platform in order to get visibility, so that they more and more people can have them in their homes, and their friends can display those NFT artworks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just to build off of what Patrick and Daniel said, the current state and the future state, those are very different. The current state, as Patrick said, a lot of people today, a lot of the consumers of our NFTs that we minted are just keeping it in their meta wallets, which are interoperable with the various NFT marketplaces. Not the champion ones with the special unlockables, but a lot of the other ones. And so I think that where our Taffy's position is that wherever people are spending time, whether it's virtually in the gaming world, as Daniel mentioned, or physically in their home, that's where you're going to start seeing the displays. I mean, the communities and the followers that matter to people, if you're in the gaming community and you're a pre-teen and you're on Roblox, you'll want to be showing your community that you have these NFTs. If you are in home and you're entertaining, post-COVID, of course, you're going to be wanting to display your artwork on the digital displays. And actually, just as a side note, you're seeing digital frames sell more in the retail, in the physical world. And you're seeing people, actually, that's a good example, providing digital frames as part of the NFT purchases. So our position at Taffy, we're agnostic wherever people are spending their time, whatever communities that matter to them that they want to showcase, whether it's for status or for secondary marketplace investment speculation you mentioned at the beginning, Marty, that's where they're going to be displaying it.
Mm-hmm. When we talk about
Golden Girls and Matlock
investment
NFTs,
marketplace and the headlines in the general press, forget about the business press, but the headlines are about the $200,000 LeBron James clip. They're about Jack Dorsey's $2.3 million tweet, et cetera, and Beeple and all that. Is there a disconnect between the real business that's going on a day-to-day basis on a platform like VeVe or any of the other platforms and the cost of entry to somebody who's interested in NFTs and this publicity that's out there, is that creating a sort of psychic disconnect in the marketplace when we're trying, when you're all trying to build a business?
I think personally right now there is a bit of a disconnect. We've been in the physical collectible world for a very long time, and the price points in the physical world now, especially in the sports area, are
Mike F1 said licensing and
But what we're seeing in the digital world are just very, very inflated. Whether it's going to stay like that is, we're going to have to see post bubble. But that's kind of one of the reasons from our perspective. I mentioned in our presentation that we're about creating a sustainable collectible industry, where our items are priced at what people would normally pay in the physical world for a physical statue, and I think that's a very important step to understand that if you're putting items out there for millions of dollars, at the end of the day, a lot of what collectors want is they want their favorite brands, and for those collectors who are in it for investment, they want that upside. And when you're paying, huge amounts of money for at the very first point of sale, that could end up with a bit of negative sentiment if that doesn't continue to rise, which would be very difficult.
I would say
perspective. Okay, sorry.
So like crap. What do we say?
Okay. So from our perspective, we want to build a platform for up and coming artists. So really, our mission since the beginning was to make art affordable and available to everybody. And so it's clear you're seeing a lot of these inflated prices, but we as a business really want to try and make visual art open to everybody.
And I would just say that's the beauty of, and it might sound dated, the beauty of the internet or the beauty of digital is that it should democratize art for every price point. So there are the Beeples that sell for millions of dollars, but as we see in our digital platforms, for example, the Samsung AR emoji, you can buy a virtual champion hoodie for a single-digit dollars, and so we view and we see that that price point. Or on Roblox, some of the fastest selling items, they're like 100 Robux, which is about $1. And so we have large volumes. You have that access and reach of the internet of the digital world, and for a lower price point. One of the things that's been constraining price points for NFTs is there are high friction costs. Tyler mentioned you have to get a wallet, you have to purchase Ethereum, and then there's actually transaction costs that sometimes are hard to predict, called gas fees, that can range anywhere from $50 to a couple $100 that you just don't know when you're purchasing that those come into play. And so that has been, even if you price things for basically free, like Taco Bell did as part of their NFT drop, it makes it difficult for people to purchase if they want to pay $5, but they don't know if the gas fee is going to be $100 at that transaction point. We do have some inside baseball knowledge because Taffy does talk to all the marketplaces, all the third-party marketplaces, that this is something that's being worked on, and we have a lot of confidence that those transaction fees will come down significantly in the most popular marketplaces.
Dan's like, it costs like 0.001
Dan
penny
mentioned,
to send our
creating
NFTs.
a sustainable marketplace, and
We're on
we've
the Go
actually
chain.
there are 3 separate questions on my screen. And by the way, I've been looking to the side because I have the questions that are coming in.
I have
It's not
dual
because
monitors.
as Maura said, not because I'm checking my email. A couple people have asked
I love
about
you, Marty.
sustainability.
Stay golden,
for example,
bro.
What about environmental sustainability? Is the energy usage
Gotta
a
love
concern
Marty.
for everybody in how this marketplace is perceived of and as it develops? Anybody want to?
Yeah, I'll answer that, because that was one of the things that we want to try to understand better. I mean, clearly, there's this broad use of energy that goes along with the blockchain, right? And one of the things we learned about was the difference between show of proof of work and proof of show. And so, and I think what Preston's alluding to is there's several marketplaces that can do things like not use energy until the item is sold and then it gets minted, or run kind of parallel to the blockchain so you don't actually use the same amount of energy. I'm not an expert in this, but as I understand it, proof of work is all these computers are trying to solve the same math problem to earn cryptocurrency as the reward for validating the ledger, which is the blockchain. Mm-hmm. The other side of it is to say we're not going to ask everyone to do that. We're going to select people to do that, and if you get it correct, then you get the reward, and that significantly cuts down the energy usage. So there's a lot of people putting effort and energy into answering the sustainability part of it and say, how do we reduce it? And I think a lot of the artists and creators are definitely concerned about this issue as well. So I think the NFTs and bringing in artists actually into this space is going to help accelerate finding better sustainable solutions in the future. But it is something to be mindful of, certainly.
Dan's like, I can answer that question.
Anybody else want to attack that one?
Dan, yep.
Yeah, and just to touch on that, it also can come down to the blockchain provider that you choose. I guess the most popular one really now is Ethereum, any kind of ERC-721 NFTs. That is ultimately has the highest cost to the environment and also highest cost in the fees right now. But there are, as Preston touched on, there are many solutions being developed right now, such as layer 2 solutions on top of Ethereum. A lot of them are gasless. They're basically 99.9% environmentally friendly. And really, I think, from my perspective, it's something that the tech community is going to evolve over this year, and we will start moving far more significantly into these more environmentally friendly chains, because that's what consumers are demanding, that's what the licensors and manufacturing are demanding, and we're really already seeing that move. So I think even with Ethereum, there's a few solutions coming out later this year that will really put this sort of environmental issue to bed, hopefully.
Okay. Really good question. It's great to see brands like Champion on board with NFTs. A question for the others: what brands are all in on NFTs, and what has it taken for them to get there? What does it take? What does it take for a brand to make an impact?
So I'll just answer from Taffy's perspective. We have a lot of brand partners. I think Daniel and Patrick have a lot of brand partners as well, and obviously Champion is a brand. But what we're seeing is
Dan's like,
some of the more established
we have a lot of
brands that are like 100 years old. They just need to understand. It's an education on that front. What are NFTs? How does it impact sustainability? How does it help with my storytelling? From I think across the board, we're getting a lot of brands, and it's not just in fashion entertainment, but also in sports and celebrities and esports and across the board. Everyone is asking about it. So we're spending a lot of time at Taffy, not only talking to our existing brand partners, but fielding a lot of questions from new brand partners. And 90% of the conversation is really in education, and trying to do it in a non-jargony way is also.
I like the dance when he's like, I can answer that question better.
They're just who the audience is, the logistics of it. We mentioned some of them. What happens in the secondary market? Why is it such a big deal? Just across the board, just it's kind of like 101. Like, what is an NFT even? Like, what does it stand for? I mean, there's
Marty
all
says,
sorts of things that we're
I love Marty, man.
And some companies are more
I want to buy Marty a coffee
than others.
Is that term NFT getting in the way? Should there be a better term that you all can use, that everybody can use to make this a broader market?
I love that guy.
Or are we there yet? Or
I don't think terminology. I think it's just we're in Europe, so when we're still a little bit behind America. So when I talk to our partners and licensing agencies, some of them ask me, what does NFT stand for? So clearly, like Preston says, there is an education point. For us as a business, we're a marketing channel for brands, so brands can push content. Doesn't have to be an NFT. We're a licensing channel as well, a new way for brands to license content. and now we're an NFT for brands in order to sell, trade, and bid. So for us, yeah, we are trying to add this with our partners. Some get it, some don't. Some are more the older brands. They all hear about it. They all hear about these millions of dollars. But I always say to them, you know, these are exceptions. We can't all expect that every NFT is going to be sold for millions of dollars.
Mhm.
You know, when we started, you know, a couple of years ago, there really, like I said, the term didn't really exist. So we always refer to, you know, what we're doing as digital collectibles. And, you know, the discussions with us were a little bit different because our product itself doesn't require the user to get a wallet. They don't need to hold their private key. We hold a lot of that stuff on a custodial basis for them because, you know, in order to break into this, you know, I think, as Tyler mentioned earlier, you know, there really are two audiences. For us, especially, there's collectors, and then there's crypto users. So, you know, we approach these conversations in the sense that it's not necessarily about the tech, it's about the experience and making sure the users can really, you know, make the most of this new space without those barriers.
Okay. Here's a really great question. What does it cost a brand to get into this? And overall, what kind of ROI should they be imagining? What's the ROI on diving in here?
So I'll answer from Taffy's perspective. It depends on what the goal is, right? If the goal is promotion the way that Taco Bell did it, the ROI is on marketing value. If some from our community, they are artists and creators, and they have something that will speak very authentically to their existing audience, then that's a financial return. But I would just say it depends on how you're defining ROI, and it depends on what your goal is. And I would say that if you're in it just for a pure kind of cash grab, we don't see those. Those are not ones that we're taking at Taffy. We're wanting to make sure
what's a pure cash grab?
An authentic experience.
Mm-hmm. Tyler, how were you looking at this when you got into it?
Yeah, again, for us, you know, we're thinking about the entire digital space, right? So
he's like, I'm all for the cash, baby.
And the objective is to engage the consumer where the consumer's at, right? And so
we want to be where the consumer's at, baby.
That's priceless, and that drives real world physical item sales, you know, more than anything. And that's what our primary objective is. You know, when I think about NFTs specifically, and this is just my personal opinion, I mean, I think that a year from now, you're going to get into an Uber and your driver's going to ask you what NFTs you own.
Like,
and so,
you want an
so
NFT?
Right now we're at the beginning
Uber
of
NFT?
Something that's going to be just ubiquitous. And so I would encourage brands to spend time doing research and learning and listen to Gary Vaynerchuk's podcast and the Nifty Show and other things.
He mentions Batman and Superman and VeVe.
It's not going away. I mean, there's certainly a bubble aspect to it. There's hype. You know, it's kind of like Bitcoin when it was at $500, went to 5,000, came back down. Where is it now, right? I think in a lot of ways, like, it's such an incredible technology that empowers so many people. You got to solve the environmental side of it for sure. But you know, you get through that hurdle and what it does and what it enables, the applications for NFTs are just endless, and it's really exciting. So,
okay, one last question
All
for
right.
each of
I
you, and
respect
I'll ask
that
you to
little
keep it
comment.
to about 20 to 30 seconds each. What are your big questions about the next year and how this marketplace develops?
My bladder's
from your
so
personal
full.
perspective. Patrick, why don't you go first?
From our perspective, we want to work with more and more brands, bigger and bigger brands. We want to work with museums. And like I said at the beginning, we really want to get up and coming artists onto the platform.
VeVe is
and
a
really
museum.
For them, it's a new revenue stream. So we're really trying to help the art community.
Then partner with VeVe.
Dan? What are your questions?
Really, I mean, we just, I don't really have any questions per se, but, you know, really, I would just encourage brands to, you know, take a look at VeVe. We are a non-technical platform that really is geared towards driving collectors and fans into the content that they want in a brand new medium.
Okay. Preston?
Sure, more of an observation. So Taffy, we've been looking at blockchain technology for several years for the utility of it, from piracy of digital content or scarcity of of digital collectibles. The one observation I have is just the types of utility, the way that people are using NFTs today. I would love to see how that evolves a year from now, because we were just talking to a musician yesterday, actually, that is using it for creating a virtual world. Someone buys an NFT, they can go in the virtual world and they can go across to unlock different virtual worlds that unlock, different music tracks that drop. So to Taffy and to us and to me personally,
Dan's like,
I'm just
did you just
super
steal that
excited
from
to
us?
see the different
look
use
at his eyes. He's like,
beyond what we can even imagine today.
Great. Tyler, you get the last word.
It's a very exciting space. I think the top priority is just to understand how consumers want to engage and be engaged, and listen to the consumers. Consumers will guide you to the best way to interact with them. So,
no, I like
Great.
the Taffy guy, to be honest.
Thank
though.
you to
He's not
our
bad.
panelists for putting yourselves out there. Really appreciate it. We look forward to examining this continually as the marketplace develops. And as I can tell from the number of questions we weren't able to answer, there's a lot of interest out there and people are still trying to figure it out. So thank you all very much. And
Thanks,
I guess
Marty.
I'll now
You're the
turn
man.
it over to
Stay golden.
Steph.
Thanks a lot, Martin.
Thank you, guys.
Martin, you are you're golden, brother. I like me some Martin, man. He just in case you guys were wondering, he's not checking his email. He's got two screens, and one of them is questions, not his email. So hashtag not checking email. But yeah, Marty, man, good dude, man, good dude. So this is panel 4, and there's 2 more panels that we probably will not check out. The Mud / Top Sky is going to be on this one at 3:15 in a minute. But let's recap. Let's circle back. If you guys want to watch this, it's probably available somewhere else. I don't know. It might be interesting. Yeah, I think we're done unless you guys want to keep streaming. This is muted. I gotta really go to the bathroom too, so I've been holding it this whole time. But yeah, so this actually might be interesting. We'll keep it paused for a second, and I'll let you guys listen to it while I go to the bathroom. But just to recap the last, what Dan was saying, and all the other guys, obviously some of these brands on there were a little bit more junior for sure. I say a little bit. They were more junior than Ecomi, obviously, and Dan and David's experiences obviously they have a vast amount of knowledge when it comes to crypto, and you could tell right away. I mean, I don't think there's really a good comparison. But I do, these guys like Taffy, the guy who talked a lot, and at the end of the day, it's a pretty cool project. It's going to be up and coming, good for them. But I would have loved to hear more from David a little bit. But obviously, the guy Zach or whatever from what project was that? It wasn't Epic. It was Recur, which sounds it sounds very similar to VeVe's marketplace. So it's kind of like they're trying to build this back end system for other projects, and it's called Recur, but it's going to be maybe a front end platform as well. I'm really not sure. So it sounds like they're a competitor to VeVe, and just based off what he was saying and talking, it sounded like he was just trying to promote his product and service, and so it makes sense. But obviously Ecomi already has numbers users, and Dan just with the heavyweight licenses already, there was just no comparison. I mean, they could have just showed the slideshow and been like, and mic dropped and then been out, right? So Saved by the Bell, thanks for the stream. Hey, appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Time for Dan to drop in the Discord chat. Yeah, for sure, man. Let's see. Yeah, they're both off of Discord, so they're both or at least Dan, is idle. So Dan was on Discord earlier, but not anymore as far as activity wise. Damage VR. So yeah, no news. Probably not till the Alfred Kahn update. So I'm gonna unpause this, go to the bathroom, and then we will maybe
digital space. And we created.
This will be interesting because this is on wax. Tops is on wax.
You can have your collection of cards. It goes in your pocket, and it
plus, gonna keep the stream going. You know what I'm saying? So
trade, play, all on your phone,
I'll be right back, guys.
all in your pocket. And the second piece of the business that where we really explored digital was in our gift cards business. So we made an acquisition, and today we basically provide the services for several gift card players, tech forward, tech clients, Uber, Netflix, DoorDash, Instacart, and the like. And it's just an area that we're incredibly focused on. And together we have a nice portfolio between sports and entertainment and our confections business.
It's really helpful. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about fan passion, because I don't know that there's any other company that knows it as well as you do over 80 years. So talk a little bit about this deep and rich history around collectibles and the mindset around collectibles. And as you've extended your brands into other modalities, what have you learned about fan passion, community, the ability to really transpose your brands into these new environments?
Yeah, look, for us, everything we do, it's about connecting the fan to his or her passion. It's about getting closer to the IP, to the sport, to the entertainment property, to the hero, to the celebrity. That's what we're focused on, almost regardless of the modality. But in terms of how we've evolved modalities, I would start with experiential is something that's been very important to us. So sure, trading cards have existed, stickers and albums have existed for many, many years, but we have found a way to build experiential components into our products. For example, we sell a very expensive $25,000 box of product. Inside, you can imagine, it's very unique, one-of-a-kind offerings, but it also comes with a golden ticket to have dinner or an evening with your superstar. It could be with WWE wrestling. It could be with Mike Trout from baseball. But the idea is, from an experiential standpoint, fans have an opportunity to get closer to their heroes. Another medium that we've moved into is e-commerce. And about 5 years ago, we really started focusing on this particular route to market for consumers. And the idea was to really focus on immediacy. It used to be that you'd go in a couple times a year, buy your Topps products, whether it's for Series 1 or later in the summer or around a Star Wars movie. And we still do make those offerings available naturally through our wholesale and brick and mortar channels. But today, Topps.com, our e-commerce platform, enables us to have fans immediately interacting with our products. So Topps Now is a program where today's games and the best moments from today's games and events are available tomorrow on Topps.com for a limited time only, 24 hours. You have the opportunity to purchase whatever it is that you'd like, and then the product basically arrives to your door in roughly 3 to 5 days. That's Topps Now. Project 2020 is another great program that we did last year, turning over design activities to culturally defining artists who took 20 of our most iconic cards and remade them the way they felt was most special and most appropriate. Curated sets where we turn the creative reins over to athletes, celebrities, influencers, also very important. And then lastly, we've moved into the digital space. Now for us, this is not something new for us. As I mentioned earlier, we moved into this space about 10 years ago. And what it enabled us to do was really reimagine everything we know about fandom, everything we know about community, and bring it to consumers through this ecosystem of our apps. So, today, as opposed to having to go down the street with my shoebox to trade with my best friend, you and I tonight, we can trade cards, whatever time, wherever you or I happen to be, is just an advancement of the community into the digital space.
I want to come back to that digital because you just struck an emotional chord with me. I was one of those shoebox carrying kids back in the day, and there is something really immersive and tangible.
Oh, dang it. You're on mute. My bad. I was just going to say, yeah, guys, I think I'm going to call it, man. I'm not too interested. I know Topps is crushing it. They're on wax. They're doing their thing. They got the MLB. Obviously, it's an OG brand. I want to definitely pick some stuff up. Can't hear you, beautiful voice. It should be good now, though, right? I think we're good now. I think we're good now, right? We good? 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 Yay. 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 Okay, cool. There's like a little bit of a lag time. Okay, cool. So, yeah, man. Just joined. What did I miss, Kyle? Cameron Petty, man. You're joining literally. I'm ending the stream right now. But, yeah, you can go back, surf through it. It's mainly just a bunch of, like, a filler content, if you will, because a lot of people on the panel were talking for a long time, and Dan or David didn't really get a huge opportunity to talk, which is unfortunate. Like, one of the other guys was just talking the entire time. Just seemed like little undercuts, little jabs at VeVe, it seemed like, but I don't know. I'll have to rewatch and maybe break it down a little bit better. And then Dan got more of an opportunity. His panel was a little bit more professional. Not versus David. I'm just saying, like, the other panelists were a little bit more polished. So that segment was a little bit better. And that's pretty much it. That's the recap, right? Thanks, Zach, right? That's pretty much it, guys. So I'll see you guys in the next stream. Thank you so much for tuning in, man. You guys are awesome. And I love you guys. And peace, love, VeVe. Be authentic. Be like an NFT. And I'll see you guys in the next one.